Story 1, The Backwards Mile. Marcus Webb's odometer rolled backward, not figuratively. Literally, the digital numbers on his Kenworth's dashboard descended from 73,412 miles to 73,411, then 10, then 9. He'd been hauling frozen goods from Omaha to Portland for 16 years without incident. The reefer unit hummed its monotonous song behind him, keeping 40,000 pounds of chicken breasts at exactly negative 12 degrees Fahrenheit. Interstate 80 stretched ahead through Wyoming's empty darkness, the kind of profound black that exists only in America's forgotten spaces. His CB radio crackled with distant trucker chatter, phantom voices discussing weather patterns and way station closures. The odometer hit 73,400. Marcus pressed his palm against the dashboard as if touch could confirm what his eyes reported. The numbers continued their reverse march. 399, 398. His fuel gauge simultaneously climbed. 3/4 full became 7/8, then 15/16. Breaker 19, anybody experiencing instrument failure out here? His voice sounded hollow in the cab's confined space. Static answered. The CB's frequency display showed channel 19, but the noise emanating from the speaker resembled something else entirely. Breathing, perhaps, or whined through a tunnel that descended rather than traveled horizontally. The highway markers confirmed his suspicion. Mile marker 217 passed on his right. Moments later, despite maintaining 67 miles per hour eastbound, mile marker 218 appeared. He was driving forward. The truck was moving forward. But somehow he was traveling backward through space. Marcus checked his logbook. The entries remained normal departure time from the Omaha Distribution Center at 0600 hours, current timestamp showing 22:30. But when he glanced at his phone, the clock displayed 22:28. As he watched, it shifted to 22:27. Time was rewinding. The reefer unit's compressor cycled differently now. Instead of the familiar thrum-click silence pattern, it played in reverse, silence-click-thrum. The refrigerated air wasn't being created, it was being uncreated. Marcus felt warmth bleeding from his skin, his body heat flowing outward into the cab rather than generating from within. He attempted to brake. The pedal descended smoothly, but the truck accelerated. He released it and the vehicle slowed. Every input produced its inverse effect. The Jake brake toggle activated the high beams. The turn signal adjusted the seat position. Reality's fundamental rules were unwriting themselves around him. Mile marker 225 appeared. He'd lost 8 miles of eastward progress despite 30 minutes of driving. The highway should have placed him near Laramie by now, but the terrain outside suggested somewhere between Rawlins and Rock Springs, a section he'd traversed 2 hours earlier. Another truck materialized in his mirrors, approaching from behind at impossible speed. Not driving fast, approaching fast as if distance itself contracted between them. Marcus grabbed his CB again. "Eastbound driver, you're coming up quick. Flash your lights if you read me." The pursuing truck's headlights pulsed once, twice, 3 times, then 9 times, then infinite times, strobing so rapidly they merged into a solid beam. The vehicle looked identical to Marcus's own Kenworth, same burgundy paint, same refrigerated trailer, same configuration. As it pulled alongside, Marcus glimpsed the driver. Himself, an exact duplicate, down to the coffee stain on the left shoulder of his flannel shirt from this morning's thermos spill. The other Marcus stared back with eyes that held no recognition, no consciousness, just empty sockets performing the mechanical act of seeing. The doppelganger truck drifted closer, occupying the same lane, then the same space. Marcus felt his steering wheel turn without his hands moving. His foot pressed the accelerator without muscular input. His truck and the phantom vehicle were merging, occupying identical positions in space that should have been mutually exclusive. The dashboard instruments split and multiplied. Two odometers showed different readings, 73,200 still descending and 98,600 ascending. Two fuel gauges contradicted each other. Two engine temperature displays disagreed about whether the Cummins engine ran hot or cold. Marcus existed in sewer position, simultaneously two versions of himself making the same journey in opposite temporal directions. His CB radio spoke with his own voice. Breaker 19, anybody experiencing instrument failure out here. The exact words he'd transmitted minutes or hours or days earlier. He was receiving. Is NG his own past transmission, or perhaps sending it again for the first time? Causality had become a Möbius strip. The highway ahead forked. Not a literal interchange or exit ramp, but a genuine bifurcation of reality. The left path showed Interstate 80 continuing through darkness. The right path displayed the same highway, but daylight blazed overhead despite his clock reading 22:14 still descending. Marcus didn't choose. The truck selected the sunlit route without consulting him. Instantaneous noon surrounded him. The transition from night to day occurred without sunrise, without gradual illumination. Darkness simply ceased, replaced by harsh Wyoming daylight that cast no shadows. The sun hung directly overhead, perfectly vertical, physically impossible for this latitude and longitude. Other trucks populated this version of the highway. Dozens of them, all identical burgundy Kenworths pulling refrigerated trailers, all traveling in perfect synchronization. Marcus counted 17 visible ahead, another 23 behind. Each cab contained a driver with his face, his posture, his stained flannel shirt. The CB erupted with overlapping transmissions, all his voice asking the same question at different timestamps. Breaker 19, anybody experiencing? Instrument failure out, here, Breaker 19, anybody experiencing instrument? An infinite loop of his own confusion, stacked and echoing. Mile marker 240 appeared, then 230, then 270. The numbers randomized, abandoning sequential order entirely. Distance had become meaningless. Marcus drove forward while traveling backward, while standing still, while occupying multiple positions simultaneously. His logbook entries multiplied across pages. The same journey recorded 17 different times with 17 different arrival timestamps, all in his handwriting, all equally legitimate. He departed Omaha once but would arrive in Portland never, always, and at every possible moment. The reefer unit's temperature display showed impossible readings, -12 degrees and positive 94 degrees and absolute zero simultaneously. Behind him, the cargo was frozen, rotting, and non-existent. Schrödinger's chicken shipment, existing in all states until observed, and perhaps not collapsing into singular reality even then. Marcus tried to stop. He yanked the parking brake, killed the ignition, opened his door to physically exit the vehicle. But the truck continued its forward momentum, engine still running, door remaining closed. His body refused to obey neurological commands. He was a passenger in his own flesh, watching his hands grip the steering wheel without his permission. The other trucks began to converge. They drifted across lanes, closing ranks until 40 identical vehicles traveled in tight formation, separated by inches. Their mirrors overlapped. Their fenders occupied shared space. The laws preventing two objects from existing in the same location had been repealed without notice. Then the merging began in earnest. The truck to Marcus's left phased through his door panel. Metal passed through metal like smoke. Another vehicle descended from above, its undercarriage passing through his cab's roof. A third rose from below, its cab pushing up through his floorboard. They were all the same truck. They'd always been the same truck. He'd been driving alongside himself, ahead of himself, behind himself, through himself. The 40 Marcus Webbs occupied the single cab, their bodies overlapping, their consciousnesses bleeding together. He felt himself from 17 perspectives simultaneously. His left hand on the steering wheel was also his right hand, and his foot on the accelerator, and his eyes on the road, and his thought about stopping, and his memory of departing Omaha, and his confusion about the odometer. The highway stretched infinitely forward and backward, a Penrose staircase of asphalt that climbed and descended simultaneously. He'd been driving this route for 16 years. He'd been driving it for 16 seconds. He'd been driving it forever. Time was a flat circle and he was the circumference. His CB transmitted and received simultaneously. I'm on Interstate 80 eastbound. I'm traveling backward through mile markers. My instruments are failing. I see multiple versions of myself. I've merged with my own truck. I can't stop. Can anyone hear me? Is anyone else experiencing this? I departed Omaha 16 years ago. I'll arrive in Portland never. Help me. Ignore this message. I'm fine. I'm dying. I'm not real. I've always been here. I was never here. Breaker 19. A Breaker 19's breakers. The Wyoming State Patrol found Marcus Webb's Kenworth on October 14, 2019, parked on the shoulder near mile marker 212. The engine idled. The reefer unit functioned normally. The cargo remained frozen at exactly -12 degrees. His logbook showed a departure from Omaha at 0600 hours that morning, with no subsequent entries. Marcus himself was absent. His seatbelt remained fastened, holding nothing. His coffee thermos sat in the cup holder, still warm. The CB radio transmitted a continuous loop of static that, when analyzed by audio specialists, contained fragments of a human voice asking for help in a pattern that repeated every 17 seconds without variation. The odometer read 73,412 miles. Investigators noted this matched the mileage on Marcus's maintenance records from his last service appointment. The fuel gauge showed 3/4 full, consistent with his fuel stop in Rawlins 4 hours earlier. But the dashboard camera, which ran continuously during operation, had recorded nothing. 17 hours of footage showed an empty driver's seat. The camera's timestamp functionality had malfunctioned, displaying a countdown rather than normal progression. 23:59:59, 23:59:58, 23:59:57. When the recording reached 00:00:00, it didn't reset. It continued into negative time. -00:00:01, -00:00:02, descending toward some impossible moment before the counting began. Marcus Webb's family reported him missing. The shipping company filed insurance claims. The authorities classified it as an unexplained disappearance. His truck was eventually auctioned, purchased by another freight company, put back into service. The new driver reported instrument anomalies during his first run. The odometer occasionally ran backward for brief moments. The fuel gauge showed impossible readings. The CB radio picked up fragments of someone asking about instrument failure, though no other trucks were transmitting. These glitches were attributed to electrical problems. The truck remained in service. On clear Wyoming nights, truckers traveling Interstate 80 between Rawlins and Rock Springs sometimes glimpse a burgundy Kenworth in their mirrors, approaching from behind at impossible speed. When they check again, it's gone. Their odometers tick backward by a mile or two. Their clocks lose several minutes. They don't report these incidents. In the trucking community, certain experiences remain unspoken. You acknowledge them with a knowing look at the next truck stop, a brief nod of recognition that says, "I've seen it too." You don't file reports or demand explanations. Because deep down, every driver understands the truth. The highway is infinite, time is negotiable. And sometimes the road decides you haven't reached your destination yet, not because you're going too slowly, but because you're traveling in the wrong direction through a dimension that has no name. Marcus Webb is still driving. Somewhere between departure and arrival, somewhere between past and future, somewhere in the space between mile markers, he pilots his Kenworth through an endless loop of highway that curves back into itself. He'll arrive at his destination yesterday. He departed tomorrow. He's been en route since before time began, and he'll continue until after it ends. The reefer unit maintains its negative 12 degrees. The cargo remains frozen. The logbook awaits completion. And the odometer counts backward toward some original moment when the universe first learned to measure distance, before it understood that some journeys have no endpoint because they exist outside the framework of beginning and ending entirely. Breaker 19, does anybody copy? I'm experiencing instrument failure. My odometer is running backward. I've been driving forever. I'll arrive never. Can anyone hear me? Is anyone else out there? I'm on Interstate 80 eastbound. I'm everywhere and nowhere. I'm Marcus Webb. I was Marcus Webb. I will be Marcus Webb. And the highway stretches on, infinite and hungry, swallowing miles and minutes and drivers who made the mistake of believing they controlled their own destination. A story 2, the static frequency. Denise Kowalski heard the voice at exactly 0347, not on her CB radio, inside her head. Turn around, clear as a passenger speaking directly into her ear, but the cab of her Peterbilt contained only herself and the thermos of coffee wedged between the seats. She'd been hauling steel coils from Gary, Indiana to Nashville, running Interstate 65 through Kentucky's rural darkness. The load weighed 42,000 pounds, secured with chains she'd personally inspected during her departure inspection. As she adjusted her rearview mirror, checking her eyes for signs of fatigue-induced hallucination, bloodshot but alert, she'd slept 6 hours at the Gary truck stop before departure, well within federal rest requirements. The voice had been real, real enough that her hands had tightened on the steering wheel reflexively. Turn around now. Louder this time with emphasis that felt like pressure behind her eyes, not a suggestion, a command delivered with the force of physical compulsion. Denise grabbed her CB microphone. Breaker 19 southbound on 65, anybody else hearing voices on an open channel? She released the key and listened. Static answered, but within the white noise something moved. Patterns emerged and dissolved, almost linguistic but not quite, like hearing conversation in an adjacent room with the door closed, the rhythm and cadence of speech without discernible words. Mile marker 78 passed on her right. The highway ahead stretched empty, devoid of traffic in both directions. October meant fewer tourists, less commercial freight. At this hour, she often drove 30-minute stretches without encountering another vehicle. The isolation usually brought comfort. Tonight it felt predatory. Her CB erupted with genuine transmission. Southbound Peterbilt, you running solo. A male voice, rough with cigarettes and decades on the road. Relief washed through Denise's chest. Affirmative, you catch my previous message about voices. Negative, just saw your lights in my mirror. Thought you might want company through the next stretch. Dead zones coming up. Dead zones. Rural Kentucky harbored pockets where cell signals vanished, where AM radio faded to static, where even CB range dropped to a few hundred yards. Denise checked her phone, 2 bars of service descending to 1. Appreciate it, what's your handle? Silence, she checked her CB's display channel 19, transmission light inactive. The other driver hadn't responded. She tried again. Breaker 19, you still monitoring? Turn around. The voice returned, not through the radio but emanating from somewhere inside her skull. This time it carried additional information downloaded directly into her consciousness without passing through her ears. She suddenly knew with absolute certainty that continuing south meant she would cease to exist. Not die, cease. A more fundamental negation. Her speedometer read 63 miles per hour. She eased off the accelerator, letting the Peterbilt coast while she processed the impossible knowledge lodged in her brain. How did she know? What mechanism delivered this information? The steel coils behind her shifted. Subtle movement, barely perceptible, but she felt the load's center of gravity adjust. That shouldn't happen. Properly secured cargo didn't migrate during normal operation. She'd need to pull over, inspect the chains, possibly resecure the entire load. An exit sign appeared, rest area 2 miles. Denise signaled right despite the empty highway. Professional habits died hard. As her turn indicator flashed, the voice returned, don't stop. Now it was contradicting itself. Turn around but don't stop. Continue but cease to exist. Her rational mind identified these as hallucinations, possibly carbon monoxide from a leaking exhaust manifold. But her body obeyed some deeper instinct. She canceled the turn signal and maintained speed. Mile marker 74. The markers were spacing incorrectly. 4 miles hadn't passed since marker 78, yet the numbers descended in proper sequence. Space itself was compressed here, miles folded into shorter distances. Her CB crackled again. Trapped in the pattern, can't break the 17 years I've been, a woman's voice, desperate and fragmenting. The transmission quality suggested extreme range, signal degraded by distance. But the content made Denise's scalp tighten. Who is this, what pattern? Started with a voice, told me to turn around, didn't listen. Now I'm stuck on the frequency, driving forever, can't stop, can't exit, can't arrive. The transmission dissolved into static that resolved into a rhythmic pulse. Denise counted, 17 beats, pause, 17 beats, pause. Her own heart synchronized with the pattern involuntarily. She felt her pulse adjust, speeding up to match the broadcast rhythm. The rest area appeared on her right, empty except for a single truck parked beneath the amber security lights. A Peterbilt blue paint oxidized to gray, No running lights, no signs of activity. Denise's foot moved toward the brake pedal, but the voice intervened. Keep driving. She wanted to check on the parked driver. Professional courtesy demanded welfare checks on isolated vehicles. But her leg refused to engage the brake. Muscular rebellion against conscious intent. She sailed past the rest area at 63 miles per hour, watching in her mirror as the abandoned truck receded into darkness. Mile marker 71, 3 miles since the rest area, but her odometer showed zero point 0.7 miles traveled. The discrepancy expanded with each passing minute. Official distance and actual distance were divorcing, becoming separate metrics. Her phone died, not low battery, she'd charged it fully before departure. Dead. The screen remained black despite holding the power button. When she plugged it into the charging cable, no response. The device had become inert metal and alas, its electronic consciousness extinguished. The CB transmitted again. You're becoming part of it, the road is alive. It feeds on roots where fuel for the asphalt. Same desperate female voice, but degraded further. The words arrived scrambled out of sequence, as if transmitted through a medium that distorted time as well as space. Denise checked her fuel gauge, 3/4 full. She'd topped off in Gary, giving her approximately 900 miles of range. Nashville lay 300 miles south, plenty of reserve. But as she watched, the needle descended. 3/4 became 2/3, then 1/2. Her diesel was evaporating without combustion. What do you want? She spoke aloud, addressing the voice, the road, whatever intelligence orchestrated these phenomena. Continue, different voice now, male, elderly, with an accent suggesting Appalachian origin. We need more frequency, you're broadcasting on our wavelength. Stay tuned, stay on station, keep transmitting. Her odometer spun wildly, numbers blurring. The mechanical digits cycled through thousands of miles in seconds, then reversed, then randomized. She'd traveled negative distance. She'd gone nowhere. She'd crossed the entire continent. All simultaneously true, all equally false. The highway forked ahead. Not an exit or interchange, a literal division of the road into two parallel routes occupying the same space. She could see both paths superimposed. The left continued through darkness toward mile marker 70, the right curved into dawn light despite her clock showing 0412. Her steering wheel locked. The Peterbilt chose the daylight path without consulting her. Instant transition from night to morning, no sunrise between states. The sun appeared fully risen, casting long shadows that pointed in contradictory directions. Other trucks materialized on this version of 65. Dozens of them, different makes and models, all traveling south in perfect synchronization. Denise counted 43 visible. Each driver stared straight ahead with expressions of absolute focus. None responded to her CB hails. None acknowledged her presence. She recognized one of the trucks. The blue Peterbilt from the rest area, now mobile and maintaining 63 miles per hour exactly parallel to her position. The driver was female, middle-aged, with short auburn hair and a flannel shirt. The woman's lips moved continuously, speaking words without sound. Denise activated her PA system, her truck's external speaker. "Can you hear me?" Her amplified voice rolled across the highway. The other driver's head turned. Their eyes met. Recognition flashed across the woman's face, not recognition of Denise specifically, but recognition of her situation. The shared understanding of someone trapped in identical circumstances. The other driver's lips continued moving. Denise watched, reading the repeated phrase, "Turn around, turn around, turn around, turn around." Mile markers appeared and vanished too quickly to read. The highway consumed distance at accelerating rates, devouring miles like a starving mechanism. Her speedometer still showed 63, but the landscape blurred past at velocities suggesting hundreds of miles per hour. Her CB transmitted all channels simultaneously, 19, 17, 14, 9. Each frequency carried fragments of trucker chatter overlapping into incomprehensible noise. But within the chaos, patterns emerged. Every seventh word across all channels formed coherent sentences. We are the frequency ourselves, now broadcasting from inside the static pattern, forever driving toward destination that recedes as fast as we approach. Denise felt her own voice transmitting. She wasn't keying the microphone, but her CB broadcast continuously. She heard herself joining the collective transmission, her words interspersing with the chorus of trapped drivers. Trapped on 65 southbound, started with a voice, told me to turn around, can't stop now, becoming part of the pattern. As the steel coils behind her crashed forward, all 42,000 pounds of cargo broke free, smashing through the cab's rear wall. But Denise felt no impact. The metal passed through her seat, through her body, through the dashboard, continuing through the engine block and emerging from the front of the truck without causing damage. The coils weren't physically present. Neither was her trailer. Neither was she. They'd all become radio signals, electromagnetic patterns propagating through the medium of the highway itself. Physical form was a memory, a recording of what they'd been before the road converted them to transmission. Her fuel gauge hit empty. The engine should have died, but it continued running on something other than diesel. The highway provided fuel now, a dark energy that sustained vehicles in exchange for the driver's continued broadcast. They were batteries powering the road's hunger for frequencies. Mile marker -17 appeared. The numbers had reversed beyond zero, descending into mathematical impossibility. She'd traveled south of her own departure point, beyond the origin of her journey. The sun overhead multiplied. 2 suns, then 5, then uncountable points of light forming a grid pattern in the sky. Each sun cast shadows in different directions, creating a chaotic web of darkness that shifted and overlapped. Day and night became meaningless categories. Light existed independent of time. Denise's hands merged with the steering wheel, not gripping it, fusing with it. Her flesh and the leather covering blended, her nerve endings extending into the truck's electrical system. She felt the transmission's gears shifting inside her chest. The diesel engine's pistons fired in her legs. She was becoming the vehicle, or the vehicle was becoming her. The distinction no longer mattered. The other trucks closed ranks, converging until their fenders overlapped. 43 vehicles occupying the space of one, their forms layered and translucent. The drivers' faces superimposed, creating a composite portrait of everyone who'd ever been trapped on this frequency. Denise saw her own features merging into the collective face. "Welcome to Channel Zero," the chorus of voices transmitted. "The frequency beneath all frequencies, the station that never stops broadcasting. You're one of us now. You'll drive this route forever, transmitting your experience to warn others who won't listen because they can't hear until it's too late." Her logbook filled itself, pages turning autonomously. The entries recorded journeys she hadn't taken, loads she'd never hauled, conversations with dispatchers who'd been dead for decades. The pen moved without her touching it, her handwriting documenting trips that existed only in the highway's memory. As the voice returned one final time, no longer external or internal but omnipresent. You didn't turn around. Denise understood then. The warning had been literal. Turn around physically, make a U-turn, reverse direction, break the southern trajectory. By continuing forward, she'd crossed a threshold that existed in motion rather than geography. The act of sustained travel in one direction had trapped her in a state of permanent transit. She would drive forever, not metaphorically. Forever. The highway had no southern terminus for drivers who became frequency. They traveled toward Nashville eternally, approaching but never arriving, asymptotically close to their destination without the possibility of reaching it. The Kentucky State Police found Denise Kowalski's Peterbilt on October 19, 2017, parked on the shoulder near mile marker 74. Engine idling. Load intact and properly secured. No sign of the driver. Her logbook ended mid-entry. Southbound on 65 experiencing. The CB radio transmitted continuously on all channels simultaneously. Technicians who examined the unit couldn't explain how it broadcast omnidirectionally on every frequency at once. The signal contained a voice reading coordinates and timestamps that placed the truck in locations it had never visited, at times before Denise's birth and after her disappearance. The truck was eventually recovered, auctioned, returned to service. Subsequent drivers reported anomalies. Voices on the CB when no one was transmitting, fuel gauges showing impossible readings, the sensation of someone speaking directly into their thoughts. One driver abandoned the truck mid-route, walking away and refusing to explain his decision. Another requested immediate reassignment after a single trip. The Peterbilt gained a reputation. Drivers called it the frequency hauler in hushed conversations at truck stops. It remains in service today, running routes through Kentucky on Interstate 65. On certain nights, when conditions align, clear weather, minimal traffic, the hour between 0300 and 0400, other truckers report seeing it traveling southbound near mile marker 74. The truck appears and disappears, phasing in and out of visible reality. When it's present, observant drivers notice the cab is occupied. A woman sits behind the wheel, hands fused to the steering column, lips moving in continuous speech. Her CB transmits on all frequencies. Turn around. The road is alive. We're broadcasting from inside the static. Turn around, please turn around. No one ever does. They continue south toward Nashville, toward Memphis, toward destinations they'll reach because they're not broadcasting on Channel Zero. Not yet. But somewhere in Kentucky's darkness, between measured miles and impossible distances, Denise Kowalski drives on. She's been traveling for 7 years. She'll travel for 7,000 more. The highway feeds on her momentum, converting motion into electromagnetic sustenance. She is the warning, Zest the frequency. She is the voice that future drivers will hear and ignore, because understanding comes only after crossing the threshold, and by then it's too late to turn around. Breaker Channel 0. Does anybody copy? I'm trapped in the frequency. I've been driving forever. I can't stop. I can't arrive. I'm becoming static. If you hear this, turn around. Please just turn around. Story 3. The Parallel Driver. Raymond Ortiz saw himself die on Interstate 40, 3 miles east of Amarillo. Not a premonition, not a vision. He watched through his windshield as an identical Freightliner Cascadia, same silver paint, same logistics company decals, same trailer configuration hauling automotive parts, lost control in the westbound lanes, jackknifed across the median, and erupted into flames after striking a bridge support. The driver trapped in the burning cab was him. Same face visible for 3 seconds before the fire consumed everything. Same scar above the left eyebrow from a childhood bicycle accident. Same wedding ring catching firelight. Raymond's foot hit the brake instinctively. His truck shuddered to a stop on the shoulder. He grabbed his phone, hands trembling, dialed 911. There's been an accident, westbound 40 near mile marker 71, semi-truck fully involved fire, driver trapped. Sir, we're showing no incidents at that location. Can you confirm the mile markers? Raymond's eyes tracked back to the crash site. Empty highway, no burning truck, no debris, no smoke. The bridge support stood pristine, undamaged. Westbound traffic flowed normally, 3 passenger vehicles and a van moving at highway speed. Lines, I just watched it happen. Truck jackknifed, hit the bridge, caught fire. Is there currently a vehicle on fire at your location, sir? No, it's gone, but I saw he stopped. How do you explain witnessing an event that left no evidence? Are you feeling ill? Do you need medical assistance? No, I'm fine. False alarm, sorry. He ended the call, not fine, definitely not fine, but unable to articulate the wrongness spreading through his chest like ice water. Raymond pulled back onto the highway, maintaining 58 miles per hour in the right lane. His hands ached from gripping the steering wheel. The crash replayed in his mind with photographic clarity. The way the trailer's momentum whipped it sideways, the specific angle of impact, the color of the flames, orange fading to blue at the base. His CB crackled. Eastbound Freightliner, you just stopped to rubberneck something. Unfamiliar voice tinged with irritation. Negative, thought I saw an accident westbound. You see anything unusual? A road's clear, you've been driving too long, seeing things. Maybe Raymond had departed Los Angeles 18 hours ago with only a 4-hour rest break at a Flagstaff truck stop. Legal according to federal hours of service regulations, but pushing his personal limits. Fatigue caused hallucinations. He'd heard stories from veteran drivers about phantom hitchhikers, ghost trucks, entire vehicles that appeared and vanished. But those stories involved glimpses, shadows, unclear shapes in peripheral vision, not high-definition imagery of your own death playing out in brutal detail. Mile marker 74 passed, then 75. The Texas Panhandle stretched flat and featureless, highway cutting through terrain so level you could see the Earth's curvature. October wind buffeted his trailer, requiring constant minor steering adjustments. His phone rang. Dispatcher. Raymond activated his Bluetooth headset. Yeah, Tom. Ray, just got a weird call from your wife. She says you phoned her 20 minutes ago, told her you'd been in an accident, but your truck's GPS shows you moving normal, no stops. Raymond's throat constricted. I didn't call her. That's what I figured, but she says the caller ID showed your cell number. Voice sounded exactly like you. Told her you, whatever, was hurt bad, trapped in the truck, fire department was cutting him out. Tom, I never made that calls. She's pretty shaken up. Maybe call her, reassure her you're okay. Raymond pulled up his recent calls. No outgoing call to his wife. The last contact was 2 days ago. I'll call her now. His wife answered on the first ring. Ray, is this really you? Of course it's me. What happened? Someone called from your number, sounded exactly like you, told me there'd been an accident on 40 near Amarillo. Said you were trapped, fire department was coming, then the call dropped. I tried calling back, went straight to voicemail. I've been losing my mind. I didn't call, I'm fine, truck's fine, everything's normal. And it was your voice, Ray, I know your voice. Maybe someone spoofed my number. Scam callers do that. This wasn't a scammer, he knew details. Mentioned the bridge near mile marker 71 specifically, described the flames the way the trailer jackknifed. Things only you wow. How did he know? Because you were there. Except Raymond hadn't been there. He'd seen it happen to someone else, to himself, driving the opposite direction, dying in a crash that never occurred. I'm pulling over, give me a minute. He guided his truck onto the next shoulder, activated his hazards. His mind attempted to construct rational frameworks, stress-induced hallucination, coincidental timing, elaborate prank. None fit properly. The details aligned too precisely. His phone buzzed, text message from his own number. It happened in the other lanes. Raymond stared at the screen. The message appeared in his conversation thread with himself, but he hadn't sent it. He typed a response, "Who is this?" Three dots appeared indicating typing. Then, "You driving west." "I'm driving east." "And now you are." Raymond's hands began to shake. He dropped the phone onto the passenger seat, rubbed his eyes, tried to reassemble his sanity. When he picked it up again, the conversation had vanished. No messages. The text thread with himself didn't exist. He pulled back onto the highway. A sign appeared, Amarillo 8 miles. He'd passed Amarillo 30 minutes ago. The city lay behind him west, but the sign indicated it was ahead east. His GPS confirmed the impossible. According to the navigation system, Amarillo was indeed 8 miles ahead. His current position, mile marker 63, but he'd just passed mile marker 75. He'd lost 12 miles or gained them, or existence had hiccuped and rearranged geography. Another truck appeared in his mirrors, approaching fast. Same silver Freightliner Cascadia. Raymond's heartbeat tripled. The vehicle pulled alongside, matching his speed exactly. The driver turned to look at him. Raymond stared at his own face through the other truck's window. The duplicate Raymond showed no expression, no acknowledgement. Just parallel driving, two versions of the same person occupying adjacent lanes, both hauling identical loads toward opposite destinations. Raymond grabbed his CB. "Driver in the silver Freightliner westbound, do you copy?" His own voice answered, "I copy." "Who are you?" "Raymond Ortiz, who are you?" "I'm Raymond Ortiz." "I can't both be, one of us is wrong." The duplicate truck began to drift right, crossing into Raymond's lane, not aggressively, slowly, inexorably, as if their vehicles were magnetized. Raymond jerked his steering wheel left, but the truck resisted. It wanted to merge with its twin. The two Freightliners touched, fenders scraping, but instead of the expected metallic shriek, Raymond heard nothing. The trucks passed through each other like holograms. His duplicate's trailer occupied the same space as his cab, their forms overlapping without collision. Then the other truck solidified. Metal met metal. The impact sent Raymond's vehicle spinning. He fought the steering wheel, pumped the brakes, remembered training, don't jackknife, keep the trailer straight, control the slide. But the laws of physics had become negotiable. His truck rotated a full 360 without the trailer pivoting. The entire rig spun like a single rigid object. When the rotation stopped, Raymond faced west. His compass confirmed it. The sun setting ahead confirmed it. But he hadn't turned around. He'd spun in place, and somehow that spin had reversed his direction without reversing his orientation on the highway. He was now driving west in the eastbound lanes. As oncoming traffic approached, Raymond yanked the wheel right, crossing into the actual westbound lanes. His GPS announced, "Recalculating route, you are now heading toward Los Angeles." Los Angeles, his departure point. He'd been driving away from LA for 18 hours. Now he was returning, but he hadn't turned around. The highway had inverted him. Mile markers descended, 62, 61, 60, but he was traveling west, moving toward smaller numbers from the larger number direction. The markers counted backward relative to his motion, forward relative to his position. His phone rang, dispatcher again. "Ray, your GPS is showing you westbound, you turn around." "I didn't turn around, the road turned me around." "Oh, that doesn't make sense." "Oh, none of this makes sense." Raymond checked his logbook. The entries had changed. His departure point now read Oklahoma City instead of Los Angeles. His destination, Los Angeles instead of Oklahoma City. The journey had inverted textually, retroactively altering the official record. But his memories remained unchanged. He remembered loading automotive parts in LA, remembered departing westbound on 40, remembered every truck stop and fuel break. The logs contradicted his lived experience. Another text from his own number, "We're merging." "Oh, what does that mean?" "Two routes, same driver, can't exist separately. One of us has to stop existing." Raymond's fuel gauge plummeted, full to empty in 15 seconds. His engine sputtered, died, the truck koa. Instead, losing momentum, he guided it to the shoulder, applied the parking brake manually. Silence engulfed him. No engine rumble, no road noise, no wind, complete auditory void as if he'd gone deaf. He opened his door, stepped onto the shoulder. His boots made no sound striking pavement. He shouted. His ears registered nothing. The westbound Freightliner, his duplicate, passed at 60 miles per hour. The driver waved, a friendly acknowledgement. Then the truck flickered and vanished, sublimating from solid matter to empty space. Raymond's own truck began to fade. He watched his hands turn translucent. Through his palms he saw the highway. His flesh was becoming glass, then air, then the suggestion of air. He understood two versions of himself couldn't coexist. The universe was correcting its error. One Raymond had crashed and burned near mile marker 71. One Raymond continued west toward Los Angeles. Both were equally real. Both couldn't be. Reality chose the crash. Raymond felt flames that weren't there, smelled burning diesel, scorched plastic, his own flesh cooking. He was in the cab, trapped, metal pinning his legs. The steering column had crushed his chest. He couldn't breathe. Heat peeled his skin. He screamed into his phone, called his wife, told her he loved her, told her about the accident, told her he was dying. But simultaneously, he stood on the shoulder, watching his truck fade, feeling himself dissolve. Both experiences were equally present, equally intense. He was dying in fire and evaporating in open air. Two deaths, one moment. The westbound lanes shimmered. The crashed freightliner materialized, not burning, not damaged, but present. Raymond walked toward it, his translucent form passing through Jersey barriers. The driver's door hung open. Inside, slumped over the wheel, was himself, dead, neck broken from impact. But that made three Raymonds. The crashed one, the evaporating one, the one observing both. Multiplicity had become infinite regression. You can't resolve it, a voice said, his own voice coming from everywhere and nowhere. We fractured when you saw the crash, seeing it created it, creating it meant you saw it, causality looped, now we exist in sewer position. Raymond tried to speak, but his vocal cords had become probabilistic. His voice existed in a range of possible frequencies, unable to collapse into definite sound. The highway stretched infinitely in both directions, east and west, folding into each other. Mile markers appeared out of sequence, 71, 42, 96, 19. Distance had lost meaning. Every point was adjacent to every other point. More trucks appeared, all freightliners, all silver, all Raymond driving them. Dozens, then hundreds, then uncountable. Each represented a moment he might have crashed, might have continued, might have turned around, might have stopped. Probability space made manifest. And at the center of the convergence, at mile marker 71, the bridge support waited. Undamaged, always undamaged. Because the crash occurred in potential, not actuality. It had happened and not happened, existed in quantum superposition until observation forced collapse. Raymond had observed it. His observation created the crash. The crash created his observation. The loop sealed itself, trapping him in the paradox's center. The Texas State Troopers found Raymond Ortiz's freightliner on November 2, 2021, parked on the eastbound shoulder of Interstate 40 near mile marker 71. Engine cold. Fuel tank full. No sign of the driver. His phone contained a voicemail to his wife, timestamp showing 20 minutes before authorities arrived. In the recording, Raymond described being trapped in a burning truck after crashing near mile marker 71. His voice conveyed extreme pain. In the background, flames crackled audibly. But the truck showed no fire damage, no crash damage, no blood, no struggle, no explanation. The GPS unit's memory was extracted. It showed Raymond's truck occupying two positions simultaneously, eastbound and westbound near mile marker 71, for exactly 3 minutes and 18 seconds. Then both signals vanished. Other truckers traveling Interstate 40 near Amarillo report occasional anomalies. CB transmissions that sound like distress calls, describing crashes that leave no debris. GPS units showing phantom vehicles matching your speed in opposite lanes. Mile markers that count backward. The sensation of spinning without turning. And sometimes, in the moment before dawn, when visibility drops and perception softens, drivers glimpse a silver freightliner in both their windshield and mirrors simultaneously, approaching from ahead and behind at once. Driven by someone wearing their own face, their own expression of confused terror. They don't stop to investigate. They increase speed, leave the area, attribute the sighting to fatigue or coffee deficiency. Because acknowledging the truth means accepting that reality fractured near mile marker 71, and the fracture lines are spreading. Raymond Ortiz drives both directions on Interstate 40. He crashed and survived. He died and continued. He exists in sewer position, unable to collapse into a single state because observation created the crash that observation witnessed. He'll be there forever, occupying all possibilities simultaneously, a probability wave stretched across Texas Panhandle asphalt. And if you look too closely, if you observe him with sufficient clarity, you might create your own branch in the probability tree. You might see yourself crash, and once you see it, it becomes retroactively inevitable. Mile marker 71 awaits. The bridge support stands ready, and somewhere in the space between east and west, Raymond Ortiz drives toward and away from himself, forever approaching the moment of impact that already happened and never will. Story 4: The Way Station Loop. Gerald Moss entered the way station at 0236. He left at 0236, then entered again at 0236. The digital clock above the way station's scale glowed steady, 0236. It didn't advance to 0237, didn't flicker, remained locked on that exact moment while Gerald completed the weighing process, received clearance, and drove back onto Interstate 84 through Idaho's darkness. His dashboard clock confirmed the impossibility, 0236. The radio timestamp, 0236. His phone, his logbook's automated timestamp feature, the GPS unit's internal clock, all frozen at 2:36 in the morning. Gerald had been hauling lumber from Boise to Portland, a routine run he'd completed hundreds of times. The way station near Mountain Home was mandatory for commercial vehicles. He'd pulled in expecting the usual 2-minute delay, roll onto the scale, wait for the green light confirming his weight was legal, proceed to the exit. But the exit ramp had looped him back to the entrance. He'd driven the correct direction, following the clearly marked truck's return to highway sign, yet somehow circled back to the all commercial vehicles must enter checkpoint. A second way station officer, not the same person who'd waved him through 30 seconds earlier, approached his window. "License and registration, please." Gerald handed over the documents, studying the officer's face for recognition. Nothing. This was a different person in an identical uniform performing an identical inspection. The nameplate read Dalton. The previous officer had been Morrison. "You're good to go." Officer Dalton returned his paperwork. Gerald drove toward the exit. The ramp curved right, merged with what should have been 84 eastbound. Instead, he found himself approaching the way station entrance again. Same configuration, same lighting, same digital sign reading open, all trucks must enter. His clock, 0236. "This is insane," Gerald muttered, pulling onto the scale a third time. A different officer emerged from the station building, Hayes according to the nameplate, and conducted the same inspection. Same questions about his cargo, destination, hours of service. Same approval. A third exit attempt, same result. The ramp deposited him at the entrance. Gerald grabbed his CB microphone. "Eastbound on 84, any driver's copy. I'm stuck in a loop at the Mountain Home Way station." The static answered, but within the white noise Gerald detected a pattern. Rhythmic, almost linguistic, he fine-tuned the squelch control trying to isolate the signal. A voice emerged, fragmented and distant. "Been looping for 6 days, can't break the cycle, time won't advance." "Who is this? How long have you been here?" "It doesn't matter, no time passes, always 0236, you're trapped now, welcome to the station." The transmission dissolved. Gerald checked his fuel gauge, 3/4 full, same reading as when he'd entered. His engine should have consumed fuel during the repeated weigh station cycles, but the diesel level remained static, unchanging. The fourth loop, Officer Mitchell conducted the inspection. Fifth loop, Officer Rodriguez. Each time a different person in an identical role following the same script. Gerald began noting details, their eye color, height, distinguishing features, all different, all behaving identically. On the seventh loop, Gerald decided to deviate. When Officer Thompson cleared him, Gerald parked on the scale instead of proceeding to the exit. "I need to speak with your supervisor." Thompson's expression didn't change. "You're good to go, sir." "I'm not going. I want to talk to whoever runs this station." "You're good to go, sir." Exact same inflection, same tone, same timing. A recording, not a conversation. Gerald shut off his engine, activated his parking brake. If he couldn't exit the loop, he'd break it by refusing to participate. Thompson stood beside his T. Ruck, arm raised in the proceed gesture, frozen in position. Seconds passed. Thompson didn't move, didn't blink. A mannequin in uniform. The way station building's lights flickered. Gerald looked closer. Through the windows, he saw the interior office. Dozens of officers sat at desks, all facing the same direction, all motionless. Not working, not moving, just occupying space in identical poses. His CB crackled. "Tried stopping, doesn't work. Loop continues whether you move or not. You'll be on the scale again regardless. Time isn't linear here. It's circular." Gerald restarted his engine. As predicted, he was already moving. He hadn't shifted into gear, hadn't released the brake, but his truck glided forward anyway. Momentum without cause. He steered toward the exit, watching his speedometer climb despite his foot hovering over the brake pedal. Eighth loop, the entrance welcomed him again. Clock 0236. This time, no officer emerged. Gerald waited on the scale, engine idling. 5 minutes passed according to his perception, but the clock maintained its frozen timestamp. The station building remained dark, lifeless. He drove himself through the procedure, consulted his own paperwork, cleared himself, proceeded to the exit. The ramp curved right. And deposited him at the entrance, ninth loop. Gerald noticed something new. His trailer had changed. He'd been hauling pine lumber from a Boise mill, the load secured with heavy straps visible in his mirrors. Now the trailer appeared empty. He could see through the slats into the vacant interior. Panic constricted his chest. 40,000 pounds of lumber worth $63,000 had vanished. His entire load gone without explanation. He grabbed his phone to call his dispatcher, but the call wouldn't connect. No signal. Full bars displayed on his screen, but no data transmission occurred. The 10th loop, Officer Patterson inspected his empty trailer without comment, approved his non-existent cargo, sent him toward the exit that wasn't an exit. Gerald's fuel gauge dropped suddenly, 3/4 to 1/2, then 1/4, then empty. His engine died mid-ramp. The truck coasted to a stop, blocking the exit lane. He tried to restart. The engine turned over but wouldn't catch. He checked the fuel tank's physical gauge, the mechanical float inside the tank. It indicated 3/4 full, contradicting the dashboard's empty reading. Fuel existed but was inaccessible, trapped in a tank that simultaneously contained and didn't contain diesel. The footsteps approached. Gerald looked out his window. A line of officers walked toward his truck. dozens of them. Patterson, Rodriguez, Mitchell, Thompson, Hayes, Dalton, Morrison, all the previous inspectors advancing in formation. They surrounded his truck, stood motionless in a circle facing him. Their expressions were blank, neutral, not threatening but not human either. Simulacra performing the role of highway personnel without the underlying consciousness. Gerald locked his doors. Irrational response, the locks wouldn't stop whatever these things were. But primate instinct demanded barrier establishment. His hands shook as he engaged the manual locks. The officers began to speak in unison. "You're good to go, sir," repeated endlessly, overlapping a chorus of identical affirmation. "You're good to go, sir. You're good to go, sir. You're good to go, sir." His CB transmitted the same phrase on all channels. His phone's voicemail contained hundreds of messages, all the same recording. "You're good to go, sir." His logbook's automated system printed the phrase repeatedly across pages, the dot matrix printer running continuously. Gerald covered his ears, but the sound penetrated, not through his ears, through his skull directly. The phrase bypassed auditory processing, inscribing itself onto his consciousness. "You're good to go, sir." He grabbed a pen, wrote in his logbook, "I'm trapped in a way station loop. Time won't advance, please send help." The words he intended transformed on the page into, "You're good to go, sir." If every output device he controlled, pen, keyboard, voice, produced the same phrase regardless of his intent. His agency was being overwritten, his choices replaced with the station's singular permission. The officer's circle contracted. They pressed against his truck, hands flat on the doors, the trailer, the engine hood. Their combined touch made the vehicle vibrate, not mechanically, resonantly, as if the truck was an instrument being tuned to match the way station's frequency. Gerald felt his own thoughts beginning to align. "You're good to go, sir," echoed in his internal monologue, drowning out his fear, his confusion, his desire to escape. The phrase was becoming his only thought, his only cognition. He punched himself in the face. Pain flared, bright and clarifying. The mantra broke momentarily. In that clarity, Gerald understood the way station was assimilating him, converting him from autonomous driver to another component of its operation. Soon he'd be Officer Gerald Moss, performing identical inspections, speaking identical phrases, forever frozen at 0236. He needed to break the pattern, not by refusing to participate that had failed, not by stopping that had failed. He needed to introduce genuine irregularity, something the loop couldn't accommodate. Gerald shifted into reverse. Trucks weren't supposed to back up through way stations. The one-way flow was fundamental to the design, but if the station operated on automatic repetition, reversing direction might corrupt its cycle. He pressed the accelerator, driving backward down the exit ramp. The truck moved smoothly, encountering no physical resistance, but reality began to fragment around him. The ramp existed and didn't exist simultaneously. He was moving backward through space that was trying to move him forward through time that wasn't moving at all. The officers flickered. Their forms became translucent, overlapping, multiplying. Hundreds of inspectors occupied the same positions, their bodies layered like mirage reflections. Their unified voice distorted, "You're good to sir, go to your go sir, good." Gerald's mirrors showed impossible geometry. The ramp behind him curved upward, becoming vertical, then inverting entirely. He was driving backward up a wall, then across a ceiling, then through a Möbius surface that had no consistent orientation. The way station building melted. Its structure liquefied, colors bleeding together, reforming into shapes that weren't architectural, organic forms pulsing and breathing. The station had never been a building. It was something alive, something that mimicked human infrastructure to trap human travelers. Gerald's truck phased through the dissolving structure. He felt his vehicle being digested, broken down into component atoms. The seat beneath him turned soft, membranous. The steering wheel writhed in his grip. His cargo had never disappeared, it had been absorbed, consumed by the station that wasn't a station. And now Gerald was being consumed. His fingers merged with the steering wheel. His spine fused with the seat back. His nervous system extended into the truck's electrical network. He was becoming the vehicle, and the vehicle was becoming part of the station's digestive architecture. But by driving backward, he'd introduced a paradox. You can't digest something that's moving in reverse through your alimentary system. The station's consuming mechanism couldn't accommodate reversal. It choked on the contradiction. Reality spasmed. The frozen timestamp 0236 shattered. Time resumed its forward motion in a violent rush. Gerald's clock cycled through hours in seconds, 0237, 0238, 0300, 0415, 0730, 1200. Daylight exploded around him, months of suspended sunrises occurring simultaneously. The way station vomited him back onto Interstate 84, not the entrance, not the exit. Directly onto the eastbound lanes, his truck materializing at 70 miles per hour as if he'd never stopped. Traffic flowed normally around him. The world operated according to expected physics. Gerald checked his mirrors. The way station was gone, just empty highway shoulder where the facility should have stood. His GPS showed no way station at this location. Official Idaho records would later confirm no commercial vehicle inspection station existed near Mountain Home on 84. But Gerald's logbook contained 17 pages of identical entries. Entered way station 0236, cleared for travel. Exited way station 0236. Repeated endlessly in his handwriting. The ink was real. The pages were filled. Time had passed within the station's bubble, even as no time passed for the external world. His lumber cargo had returned, all 40,000 pounds present and properly secured. But when Gerald delivered it to Portland, the mill's receiver noted something strange. The wood grain patterns were reversed. Mirror images of normal pine grain, as if the lumber had been reflected through some dimensional boundary. Gerald never drove past that section of highway again. He requested route changes, accepted longer transit times, avoided Idaho entirely. His company obliged without explanation. They'd had 3 other drivers report anomalies near Mountain Home, time discrepancies, missing hours, CB transmissions from their own voices describing way station loops. The sector became unofficially blacklisted. Truckers shared warnings at rest stops. Skip the Mountain Home area, no way station there no matter what the signs say. If you see one, drive past, don't stop. Don't check your weight. The station isn't checking compliance, it's checking if you're compatible. Compatible with what? No one knew. No one wanted to find out. Gerald Moss retired from trucking 8 months later. The repeated dreams had become unbearable every night he enters. Dead the way station at 0236, circled endlessly, merged with his truck while officers chanted their approval. He'd wake at exactly 0236, his bedroom clock frozen on that timestamp for 17 seconds before resuming normal timekeeping. Well, the doctors called it PTSD, trauma-induced sleep disruption fixation on the moment of crisis. They prescribed medication, therapy, cognitive behavioral techniques. Nothing stopped the dreams. Because the dreams weren't memories. They were live transmissions from the part of Gerald that never left the way station. The part still circling, still being inspected, still hearing "you're good to go, sir" in infinite repetition. That version of Gerald would loop forever, trapped at 0236, waiting for time to advance. And sometimes, late at night, when his phone received messages from unknown numbers, Gerald would read texts that said, "You're good to go, sir." He never responded. Responding meant acknowledging the loop was still active. Meant admitting he existed in two states, retired in Portland and endlessly driving through a way station that consumed identity and excreted permission. The Interstate 84 flows smoothly through Idaho. Traffic passes the former location of the Mountain Home Way Station without incident. Most drivers don't notice anything unusual, but certain truckers, those sensitive to geographic wrongness, report a sensation when crossing that specific mile marker. A feeling of repetition, a sense that they've been here before, will be here again, are here always. Their clocks hesitate for a fraction of a second, their fuel gauges flicker, and if they check their CB radio at exactly the right moment, they'll hear a voice, tired, desperate, resigned, saying, "Oh, you're good to go, sir. You're good to go, sir. You're good to go, sir." The voice is everyone who entered the station, everyone who tried to leave, everyone who learned that some checkpoints don't inspect your cargo, they inspect your ability to escape. And if you fail the test, you'll loop forever at 0236, waiting for clearance that's already been granted, driving toward an exit that deposits you at the entrance, trapped in the way station's digestive cycle. You're good to go, sir, but go where? When the exit is the entrance, and the entrance is the exit, and time won't advance past the moment you arrived. Gerald Moss knows the answer. Part of him will always know. The part that's still driving, still hoping, still believing the next loop will be different. As it won't be. Story 5, The Phantom Dispatcher. The dispatcher's voice was wrong from the first word. Unit 37 Baker, proceed to alternate coordinates. The transmission crackled through Jasmine Rodriguez's Qualcomm terminal at 1943. She'd been hauling pharmaceuticals from Memphis to Atlanta, following her standard route down Interstate 59. The message interrupted her podcast mid-sentence. Jasmine keyed her response. 37 Baker, what alternate coordinates? My routing is confirmed Memphis to Atlanta direct. Negative, route modification required. Coordinates transmitted to your GPS unit. Acknowledge. Jasmine checked her GPS. New coordinates appeared, overwriting her destination. Instead of Atlanta's receiving facility, the unit directed her to rural Alabama coordinates 32.4713 north, 86.5981 west. Middle of nowhere according to the map overlay. A dispatch, these coordinates don't match any known facility. Please confirm. A confirmed special delivery customer request. Time sensitive, acknowledge and proceed. Something felt wrong. The dispatcher's voice lacked the usual casual familiarity. Her regular coordinator, Marcus, peppered conversations with small talk, asked about her family, remembered details. This voice was flat, affectless, purely transactional. Can I speak with Marcus? Marcus is unavailable. Acknowledge new routing or face contract violation. A contract violation meant penalties, delayed payments, potential termination. Jasmine had been driving for 11 years without a single complaint. She wasn't starting now. Acknowledged, proceeding to new coordinates. The GPS guided her off 59 onto secondary highways. Alabama backroads, narrow and winding, poorly maintained asphalt cutting through dense forest. Her pharmaceutical cargo, $68,000 worth of temperature-controlled insulin and antibiotics, bounced in the trailer despite her careful driving. 20 minutes into the detour, her Qualcomm chirped again. Same flat voice. Unit 37 Baker, confirm your current coordinates. Jasmine read them off her GPS. 32.395 north, 86.552 west. Negative, your actual position is 32.381 north, 86.544 west. Jasmine checked her GPS again. The coordinates matched what she'd reported. D. Dispatch, my GPS shows the position I transmitted. Your GPS is incorrect. Proceed using my coordinates. I am tracking your actual location. A chill crept through Jasmine's chest. Dispatchers tracked trucks via GPS and Qualcomm integration. They didn't independently calculate positions. They received them from the same systems drivers used. This dispatcher claimed to know her location more accurately than her own instruments. How are you tracking me? Proceed to destination, 19 minutes remaining. Jasmine checked her routing. The GPS estimated 37 minutes to the coordinates, not 19. My GPS shows 37 minutes. Your GPS is incorrect. I am tracking your actual progress, 19 minutes. The road narrowed further. Canopy trees blocked moonlight, reducing visibility to the reach of her headlights. No other vehicles, no houses, no evidence of human habitation, just forest pressing in from both sides. Her CB radio activated without her keying the microphone. The dispatcher's voice emerged from the speaker. Unit 37 Baker, you are drifting off course. Correct your trajectory 3 degrees north. How are you transmitting on my CB? This frequency isn't linked to dispatch. Correct your trajectory. You are deviating from optimal paths. Jasmine checked her steering. She was following the GPS guidance exactly, maintaining the road's centerline, no deviation. I'm following the GPS route precisely. The GPS is showing you where the road appears to be. I am showing you where it actually is. They are not the same. Correct 3 degrees north. Jasmine turned her wheel slightly left. Her truck drifted toward the road's edge, toward the tree line. If I go 3 degrees north, I'll be off the road. No, you'll be on the road. The asphalt you're seeing is a projection. The actual road is 3 degrees north of the projection. In Insanity, roads didn't have projections. They existed as physical surfaces. But Jasmine felt something underneath her growing dread, a weird intuition that the dispatcher might be correct. The road did feel slightly wrong, as if she was driving on a surface that didn't quite align with her perception. As she steered 3 degrees north, her truck's right tires left the asphalt, crunching onto the shoulder. But instead of rough ground, she felt smooth pavement. She looked down. The asphalt had shifted. What appeared to be shoulder was now centerline. What appeared to be centerline had become nothing, empty space where road should exist. Correct, the dispatcher confirmed. You're now on the actual road. Maintain current trajectory. 16 minutes remaining. Jasmine's hands trembled on the wheel. The road she'd been driving on hadn't been real, or had become unreal, or existed in some state between real and unreal, where perception and actuality divorced. Well, what is happening? You are making a delivery. Focus on driving. 14 minutes. The forest changed. The trees were growing taller as she watched, their trunks elongating, branches extending, not gradually, rapidly accelerating as if decades of growth occurred in seconds. The canopy closed overhead, transforming the road into a tunnel of living wood. Her headlights reflected strangely off the trees. The light bounced back at incorrect angles, defying optical physics. Some beams curved upward, others phased through trunks without obstruction. Her high beams created darkness instead of illumination. A dispatch: the environment is behaving abnormally. Request permission to abort delivery. A negative: customer is waiting 12 minutes. What customer? There are no facilities at these coordinates. The customer doesn't require a facility. Maintain speed, do not stop. Jasmine checked her speedometer, 47 miles per hour. But her GPS showed her covering ground faster, 63 miles per hour according to the distance calculations. She was traveling faster than her engine propelled her. The road itself was accelerating her progress. Her rearview mirrors showed impossible reflections. The road behind her spiraled upward, corkscrewing into the sky. But she felt no incline. Her truck drove level, yet the mirror insisted she'd ascended hundreds of feet vertically. On dispatch, I need clarification. Who requested this delivery? What's the customer name? A silence. Then, you know the customer, Jasmine. You've been delivering to them for weeks. Jasmine's blood froze. She'd never given the dispatcher her first name. The Qualcomm system identified her as Unit 37 Baker. Only Marcus used her personal name, and Marcus wasn't available. How do you know my names? You told me every night at 1943. You receive my transmission and proceed to the coordinates. This is your 17th delivery. I've never made this delivery before. You've made it 16 times. You don't remember because memory doesn't persist across deliveries. But I remember. I track every iteration. Jasmine's dash cam, which recorded continuously, should have captured previous trips if this claim was true. She'd review the footage after completing this nightmare run, assuming she completed it. What am I delivering? What's in my trailers? Pharmaceuticals, Memphis origin. $68,000 declared value, but the manifest is incomplete. There's additional cargo, unmanifested. You loaded it without knowing. Jasmine had performed the loading herself, checked every pallet, verified the inventory against the shipping documents. Nothing extra, nothing unaccounted for. My cargo is exactly what the manifest specifies. And check your trailer temperature log. Jasmine pulled up the refrigeration unit's data. The trailer maintained 36 degrees Fahrenheit consistently, proper temperature for pharmaceutical storage. But the weight sensors showed fluctuation. The load had been 41,000 pounds at departure. Now it registered 43,000 pounds. Her cargo had gained 2,000 pounds during transit. Well, what's in my trailer? The additional cargo loads itself. It enters through proximity. You're carrying it to the customer who sent it, a closed loop. Origin and destination are the same entity. The road ended, just stopped mid-forest asphalt terminating in a wall of trees. Jasmine slammed her brakes. Her truck skidded, tires screaming, but continued moving forward at constant speed despite the engaged brakes. Physics had stopped applying consistent rules. As she passed through the trees, not between them, through them, her truck phased through solid wood like a projection through a screen. On the other side, a clearing opened. Circular, perfectly symmetrical, lit by sourceless illumination that came from everywhere and nowhere. In the clearing's center, a loading dock, not attached to a building, just a dock suspended in space floating 3 feet above the ground. On the dock sat a figure, human-shaped but wrong. Too tall, joints bending in additional directions, skin that reflected light in colors that didn't exist in normal spectrum. "You've arrived," the dispatcher's voice said, not through the radio, through the clearing itself, the air speaking in unified vibration. "Back your trailer to the dock." "Oh, no, I'm leaving." "You can't leave, you arrived. Arrival is permanent until delivery is complete." Jasmine shifted into reverse, cranked her wheel, attempted a jackknife turn, but her truck refused to respond. It rolled forward, backing autonomously toward the dock despite her contrary input. She watched helplessly as her trailer aligned perfectly with the loading platform. The rear doors opened without her touching them. The figure on the dock stood, moved to her trailer, began unloading. Not the pharmaceutical cargo, something else. Objects that hurt to look at, geometries that violated three-dimensional space, containers that were larger on the inside than the outside. These were the 2,000 pounds that had loaded themselves. Cargo from nowhere, delivered to nowhere, completing a circuit that existed outside normal shipping logistics. "The 17th delivery complete," the dispatcher announced. "Your manifest will update. You'll receive payment for the full load including unmanifested cargo. You'll return to Interstate 59 and continue to Atlanta. You won't remember this detour. Tomorrow night at 1943, you'll receive my transmission again and make your 18th delivery." "No, I'm not doing this again." "You don't have choice. The route is permanent. You were selected 17 deliveries ago. The selection is irrevocable." The figure finished unloading. It turned toward Jasmine's cab, its knot face regarding her with knot eyes. Then it spoke, and its voice was the dispatcher's voice, had always been the dispatcher's voice. "Thank you for your service. Your compensation has been processed. Drive safely." The clearing dissolved. Jasmine found herself on Interstate 59, traffic flowing normally around her, daylight blazing despite her clock showing 20:09 night time. She'd lost hours or gained them, or time had simply rearranged itself. Her Qualcomm showed a completed delivery log. Memphis to Atlanta, direct route, no detours. But her odometer had gained 73 miles more than the direct route required. Her fuel consumption matched the odometer's mileage, not the logged route. When she reached Atlanta's receiving facility, the warehouse supervisor noted her trailer's temperature log showed a brief anomaly, a spike to 97 degrees lasting exactly 19 seconds. Unusual but within acceptable variance. The pharmaceuticals were undamaged, payment processed, no issues. Jasmine requested her dash cam footage for review. The recording showed her driving normally from Memphis to Atlanta. No detour, no forest tunnel, no impossible clearing. Just highway footage with a 19-minute gap where the camera appeared to have malfunctioned, recording static. She tried to report the incident to her actual dispatcher, Marcus. He had no record of any alternate routing. Her Qualcomm showed no transmission at 1943. According to official logs, nothing unusual had occurred. But Jasmine's memory held every detail. The flat voice, the coordinates, the figure at the dock. She wasn't hallucinating. Something had used her truck to transport cargo between locations that didn't exist on maps. The next night at 1943, her Qualcomm chirped. Unit 37 Baker, proceed to alternate coordinates. Jasmine stared at the screen. The message was real. The coordinates appeared on her GPS, overwriting her destination. The 18th delivery was commencing. She keyed her microphone. I'm not goings. Oh, you will go. You've been selected. The route is permanent. As I'll quit, I'll abandon my truck. You can't force me to deliver. And quitting doesn't terminate selection. Abandoning your vehicle doesn't break the circuit. You'll walk to the coordinates if necessary. You'll carry the cargo in your hands if your truck is unavailable. The delivery must complete. You are the delivery mechanism now. Your truck is secondary. Jasmine pulled onto the shoulder, shut down her engine, engaged her parking brake. She climbed out of the cab, walked away from her truck down the highway shoulder, determined to break whatever pattern had trapped her. As after walking 200 yards, she checked her GPS. Her coordinates matched the alternate destination exactly. 32.4713 north, 86.5981 west, the clearing's location. She'd walked 200 yards and somehow traversed 80 miles. The clearing materialized around her. She stood in its center, the loading dock ahead. The figure waited, surrounded by containers that shouldn't exist. Behind her, her truck sat parked at the dock, trailer doors open, cargo visible inside, not pharmaceuticals now, but the unmanifested objects, the geometries from elsewhere. 18th delivery in progress, the dispatcher intoned. You are learning, physical location is irrelevant. The delivery occurs in relation space, not geographic space. Distance is measured in iterations, not miles. Jasmine had become cargo, or had always been cargo. The pharmaceuticals were incidental. She was transporting herself, delivering her own consciousness to something that fed on repeated visitation. And she understood this would happen every night. Forever. At 1943, she'd receive the transmission and travel to coordinates that didn't exist to deliver cargo that wasn't real to a customer that shouldn't be. The selection was permanent. The route was infinite. And somewhere in the system, Marcus was probably receiving transmissions from Jasmine's voice, messages she didn't remember sending, confirming deliveries she'd already made and would make again, locked in a loop of impossible logistics. As the figure unloaded, Jasmine returned to her truck. The clearing dissolved. She arrived in Atlanta, payment processed. No memory. Tomorrow at 1943 it would begin again. And somewhere in the infinite database of shipping manifests, a phantom entry recorded each iteration. A origin everywhere. A destination nowhere. A cargo consciousness unit 1. A status in transit permanent. A driver unit 37 Baker. Its estimated delivery, never always now. Story 6, The Mirror Convoy. Trent Harrison saw his convoy in the mirror before he joined it. The three trucks traveling southbound on Interstate 15 through Nevada's emptiness, two Kenworths and a Freightliner, hauling mixed cargo from Salt Lake City to Las Vegas. Trent drove the middle position, maintaining following distance behind the lead truck's amber clearance lights. But his driver's side mirror showed four trucks in formation, not three, four. The fourth vehicle occupied the space directly behind Trent's trailer, matching his speed exactly. When Trent glanced at his passenger side mirror, only three trucks appeared the correct number. He adjusted the driver's side mirror, thinking the angle created some optical doubling. But the fourth truck remained visible, distinct, and solid. Same Kenworth configuration as the lead truck. Same color scheme. Same running lights. And Trent grabbed his CB. Lead truck, we got a fourth joining us. The convoy leader, driver Handel Silverback, responded immediately. Negative, just us three. Why? My driver mirrors showing four trucks, seeing a Kenworth behind my trailer. Your mirrors catching headlights from someone coming up behind. Check your rear camera. Trent's trailer camera displayed the view behind his truck. Only Roadrunner's Freightliner visible, maintaining proper spacing. No fourth vehicle. But his mirror insisted otherwise. The Phantom Kenworth drove parallel to reality, occupying space that the camera CL assumed was empty. A camera shows three, mirror shows four. Something's wrong with my mirror. Pull over at the next exit, check your equipment, we'll wait. But there was no next exit. They'd entered a stretch of 15 with 53 miles between interchanges. Desert spread in all directions, empty and hostile. The moon provided enough light to see the landscape's complete absence of features, just flat scrubland extending to distant mountains. Trent checked his driver mirror again. Now 5 trucks appeared. The Phantom Kenworth had multiplied, or another had joined. 5 vehicles traveling in formation when reality insisted only 3 existed. He checked the passenger mirror, still 3. Camera feed 3, driver mirror 5. The Silverback, my driver mirrors showing 5 trucks now. Silence, then say again. 5 trucks visible in my driver side mirror. Your lead truck, my truck, Roadrunner's truck, and 2 Phantoms. Trent, you feeling okay? Carbon monoxide detector working. I'm fine, detector's green, but my mirror's showing vehicles that aren't there. Roadrunner's voice joined the conversation. I'm seeing it too. My driver mirror shows 7 trucks. We're multiplying. A horror crept into Silverback's response. I've got 9 in my mirror. This isn't equipment failure. The convoy had fractured into separate realities. Each driver saw different quantities of trucks based on which mirror they consulted. The passenger side mirrors remained honest, showing 3 vehicles. The driver side mirrors displayed an expanding fleet that grew with each observation. Trent counted his driver mirror again, 8 trucks now. They appeared at regular intervals behind his position, stretching back in a line that curved with the highway's gentle bend. All Kenworths or Freightliners, all identical to the convoy's actual vehicles. All perfectly synchronized. They're matching our every move, Silverback transmitted. When I change lanes, they change lanes. When I adjust speed, they adjust speed. Trent tested this. He drifted slightly left within his lane. All 8 phantom trucks in his mirror executed the identical movement simultaneously, maintaining exact spacing. He tapped his brakes. 8 sets of brake lights flared in unison. "We're controlling them," Roadrunner observed. "Or they're controlling us, hard to tell which." The highway ahead remained empty, but Trent's mirror showed the lead truck, Silverback's Kenworth, pulling away, accelerating despite Silverback transmitting, "I'm holding steady at 63, not speeding up." Yet the mirror showed him speeding up. The distance between trucks expanded in the reflection while remaining constant in reality. Mirror space was deforming, stretching differently than actual space. "My mirror shows you pulling away, Silverback, but my camera shows normal spacing." "My mirror shows Roadrunner catching up to me, but he's maintaining distance according to my camera." They were fragmenting. Each driver's mirror showed a different configuration, trucks spreading apart, compressing together, changing positions without actually moving. The reflections had divorced from reality, becoming autonomous predictions of what might happen rather than records of what was happening. Trent's fuel gauge dropped suddenly, full to 3/4. He'd been driving for 20 minutes on a tank that should have lasted 400 miles. But his odometer showed 73 miles traveled since the last fuel stop, not 20 miles. In checking fuel levels, Trent transmitted, "My gauge just dropped quarter tank, but odometer says I've gone 73 miles since last fill up." "My odometer shows 98 miles, Silverback responded. "I've driven 21 actual miles." "Mine shows 37 miles, Roadrunner added. "I've driven 19. They'd traveled different distances while driving together. Impossible, but the odometers didn't lie, or rather, they lied in consistent ways that suggested they were telling the truth about something reality couldn't accommodate. Trent checked his driver mirror. 15 trucks now. The line extended beyond the mirror's visible range, disappearing into the reflection's horizon. He couldn't see where the convoy ended anymore. It might have been infinite. Then he noticed something new. The phantom trucks weren't empty. Each cab contained a driver, and each driver was him. 15 Trent Harrisons driving 15 identical trucks in perfect formation. He counted carefully. Position 7, the 7th truck in the mirror convoy, contained a Trent wearing a red cap instead of his usual blue. Position 11 showed a Trent with a beard. Trent was clean-shaven. Position 13 displayed a Trent who was visibly older, gray-haired, face lined with decades. These weren't duplicates, they were variations. Versions of himself from timelines where minor decisions had diverged. Red cap instead of blue, beard instead of shaven. Years of different life choices accumulating into an elderly face. "Silverback, can you see the drivers in your phantom trucks?" "Yeah, they're all me, but different versions. One's missing his left arm, another's got scars across his face. What the hell is happening?" "Parallel realities," Roadrunner suggested. "We're seeing into alternate timelines. Other versions of this convoy where we made different choices." "But why now? Why this highway?" No answer. The desert offered no explanations, just continued its flat refusal to care about human confusion. And Trent CB crackled with a new voice. His own voice, but not quite. Slightly deeper, slower paced. "Convoy led, this is alternate Trent, you need to stop your trucks." Who is this?" "This is Trent Harrison from Timeline Delta 7. I'm the version of you driving the seventh truck in your mirror. You're approaching a convergence point. If you continue, all timelines will collapse into a single strand. Most of us will cease to exist. Trent's rational mind rejected this. Alternate timelines didn't broadcast on CB Channel 19, but his mirrors showed evidence that rationality had suspended operations. What convergence point? Mile marker 217. At that location, Interstate 15 from all parallel timelines occupies the same physical space. Usually they don't interact, just pass through each other like ghosts. But tonight something's wrong. The timelines are becoming tangible to each other. If we all reach marker 217 simultaneously, we'll merge. What happens if we merge? Only one timeline survives, the version of events with the most momentum, mass. We don't understand the physics. But 15 timelines entering the convergence means 14 groups of drivers will vanish. You'll be driving through empty desert and suddenly you won't exist anymore. Or you'll be the one who survives and the rest of us will stop being. Now, Silverback's voice tight with fear. How do we avoid this? Stop before marker 217. Wait for the convergence to pass. The overlap window is only 4 minutes long. After that, timelines separate again and you can proceed safely. Trent checked his GPS. Mile marker 217 lay 6 miles ahead. At current speed, they'd reach it in 5.4 minutes, right in the middle of the convergence window. A copy, we're stopping. Silverback began to slow. Trent matched his deceleration. They guided their trucks onto the shoulder, activated hazards, came to a complete stop at mile marker 212. But the phantom trucks in Trent's mirror didn't stop. They continued past, driving through the stopped convoy's position like wraiths. 15 Trents in 15 trucks, all continuing toward the convergence point. Trent watched his alternate selves approach mile marker 217. The phantom trucks began to merge, not colliding, merging. Their forms overlapped, occupying the same space, their physical structures interpenetrating. 15 vehicles compressed into 7, then 3, then 1. A single truck containing all versions simultaneously. Then that single truck flickered and vanished. Gone. Just empty highway where a moment before 15 vehicles had occupied the same location. Did you see that? Roadrunner's voice shook. They're gone, Silverback confirmed. All the phantom trucks. My mirror shows just us 3 again. Trent checked his own mirror. Correct. 3 trucks parked on the shoulder. The phantoms had converged and eliminated each other, collapsing into mutual annihilation. We should be able to proceed now, the alternate Trent voice transmitted. The convergence window has weight. No, something's wrong. What's wrong? You stopped, but in 15 timelines, 3 trucks stopped. That means 45 stopped trucks. And you're all stopped at mile marker 212, which means... Trent understood half a second before it happened. They'd stopped before the convergence point. But by stopping, they'd clustered together, creating a new convergence at their current location. 45 trucks from 15 timelines, all parked at identical coordinates. His driver mirror exploded with reflections. Dozens of trucks appeared, all stopped on the shoulder in overlapping positions. The density was crushing, vehicles layered in the same space, creating a visual cacophony of chrome and paint and running lights. And they began to merge. Just like the previous phantom convoy, the stopped trucks compressed together. timelines collapsing into singular existence. Trent felt his truck vibrate, not mechanically but dimensionally, as if reality was trying to force his vehicle into the same location as 44 other versions. His steering wheel multiplied in his grip. He was holding 3 steering wheels simultaneously, their positions slightly offset, each one solid and present. His dashboard split into overlapping displays showing different readings, different fuel levels, different odometers, different timestamps. He was merging with his alternate selves. He felt memories that weren't his flooding in. The timeline where he'd taken the red cap instead of blue that morning's choice at the truck stop. The timeline where he decided to grow a beard 3 months ago after his divorce. The timeline where he'd kept driving when fatigue hit, resulting in the accident that cost him his left arm. All these decisions, all these variations, compressed into singular consciousness. He was becoming composite, a superposition of every version of Trent Harrison who'd ever driven this route. "Fight it," the alternate Trent voice shouted through the CB. "You're the original, you have priority, don't let us overwrite you." But which one was original? Trent felt equally real from 15 perspectives. Each version believed it was the primary timeline. Each version experienced itself as the true Trent. His truck's form solidified and dispersed rhythmically, existing and not existing. He could see through his own hands, see through the steering wheel, see through the dashboard to the engine block beyond. Transparency increased with each pulse. He was fading, being divided by 15, spreading himself too thin across too many timelines. "A drive," Silverback screamed. "Break the convergence, move." Trent released his parking brake with one hand, 3 hands, 15 hands. He shifted into drive with one gear selector, 3 selectors, 15 selectors. His foot found the accelerator, 1 pedal, 3 pedals, 15 pedals. The truck lurched forward, not smoothly, in jerking increments as if 15 separate acceleration attempts overlapped and interfered with each other. But he was moving, breaking the cluster, escaping the convergence point by introducing motion, which created separation across time even if not across space. His mirror gradually calmed. 15 trucks became 7. 7 became 3. 3 resolved into the correct 3, Silverback's lead truck, Trent's middle truck, Roadrunner's trailing Freightliner. The timelines had separated, each continuing independently again. But something was wrong. Trent's hands looked different. His left hand was scarred, burned tissue he didn't remember acquiring. His right hand was tattooed with ink he'd never gotten. His reflection in the driver's side mirror showed a face that was his but same features, but proportioned slightly differently, as if he was viewing himself through a lens that distorted identity. "The Silverback, you okay?" "Define okay, I'm driving, I'm alive. But I don't think I'm the same me that started this trip." "Oh, what do you mean, sir?" "I remember things that didn't happen. I remember taking a different route through Utah. I remember a truck stop that doesn't exist. I think we didn't completely separate. I think some bleed-through occurred. We're mixtures now, hybrid versions." Trent checked his memories. Silverback was right. He remembered his ex-wife, but she had a different name. He remembered loading cargo in Salt Lake, but the warehouse was a different building. He remembered his training, but he'd gotten certified in a different year. The convergence had scrambled their timelines. They'd avoided complete merger, but they'd swapped details, taken pieces from alternate versions and incorporated them into their current existence. They were composite beings now, quilted together from multiple pasts. What do we do? Roadrunner asked quietly. We finish the delivery, Silverback decided. We drive to Vegas, we unload, we collect payment. We pretend we're still the people we were when we started. Oh, but we're not. No, we're not, but we're close enough. And maybe over time, the inconsistencies will smooth out. Maybe reality will adjust, make our scrambled memories consistent, or maybe we'll just learn to live with the contradictions. They drove on. Mile marker 217 passed without incident. The convergence point looked like every other section of highway, unremarkable asphalt under Nevada moonlight. Nothing indicated that 45 trucks from 15 timelines had nearly occupied the same space simultaneously. Trent's mirrors remained calm for the rest of the journey. 3 trucks, no phantoms, reality behaved according to established rules. They reached Las Vegas, made their deliveries, received payment. Everything normal. Except Trent's delivery paperwork included items he hadn't loaded. His logbook contained entries he didn't remember writing. His phone had photos from places he'd never visited, conversations with people he'd never met. He'd inherited fragments from his alternate selves, pieces of their lives, their choices, their experiences. He was no longer singular. He was plural, a collective identity wearing one body. The other drivers experienced similar contamination. Silverback discovered he was married in this timeline, though he'd been divorced when E-Trip started. Roadrunner found certification for equipment he'd never operated. Their identities had become fluid, negotiable, subject to retroactive adjustment based on which timeline's details won the collision. They never drove together again, unspoken agreement. The convoy formation seemed to trigger the convergence phenomenon. Separate trips, separate routes, separate lives, safer that way. But late at night, when Trent drives alone through empty desert, he sometimes checks his driver's side mirror and counts the trucks behind him. Usually one his own trailer reflected back, but occasionally 2, or 5, or 15. The timelines are still converging, still trying to collapse into singular existence. The mirror shows the truth. He's driving in parallel with other versions of himself, separated by dimensional membranes so thin they're almost permeable. One day the separation will fail completely. All versions of Trent Harrison will occupy the same moment, the same stretch of highway, the same body. And on that day, he'll have to decide which memories to keep, which life to continue, which version of himself deserves to survive. Until then, he drives. He checks his mirrors. He counts the trucks. And he wonders which Trent Harrison is the real one, the one who started the trip, or the composite being who emerged from the convergence, assembled from fragments of 15 different lives that all led to the same empty highway under the same indifferent moon. Story 7, The Cargo Eats. The cargo started eating at mile marker 47. Lionel Chen heard it first, a wet, rhythmic sound from his trailer like meat being chewed. He'd been hauling frozen beef from a Kansas City packing plant to a distribution center in Denver, standard refrigerated load. 41,000 pounds of shrink-wrapped sides and quarters, loaded and secured 8 hours earlier. He pulled onto the shoulder, activated his hazards, performed his walk-around inspection. The reefer unit hummed normally, maintaining negative 15 degrees. The trailer doors remained sealed, security straps intact. But the sound continued, muffled by insulated walls but distinctly organic, chewing, swallowing, digesting. Lionel keyed his CB. Any reefer drivers monitoring Channel 19, I've got a weird noise in my trailer. A female voice responded, what kind of noise? Sounds like eating something chewing. A silence, then your meat's frozen solid, yeah. Negative 15 degrees, hard as concrete. Then you're not hearing eating. Reefer compressor can make strange sounds. Check your refrigerant lines. Lionel inspected the unit's external components. All connections tight, no leaks, no mechanical issues. But the chewing sound intensified, now accompanied by something else, a low, satisfied rumble, like a predator's purr. He grabbed his thermal scanner, aimed it at the trailer's exterior. The walls should have read just above freezing. Instead, the scanner showed 98.6 degrees, body temperature. His frozen cargo was producing mammalian heat signatures. Lionel's hands trembled as he broke the security seal and opened the trailer doors. Cold air rushed out, confirming the reefer's functionality. But inside, the cargo had changed. The beef wasn't missing, it had transformed. The shrink-wrapped sections had merged, fusing together into a single mass that filled half the trailer's volume. The mass pulsed. It expanded and contracted rhythmically, breathing. And it had a mouth, not a human mouth. Something wider, extending across 10 feet of flesh lined with teeth that looked like sharpened bones. The mouth opened and closed, chewing its own tissue, consuming itself from within while somehow growing larger. Lionel backed away, slammed the doors, engaged the security latch with shaking hands. He sprinted to his cab, grabbed his phone, dialed his dispatcher. Tom, we've got a serious problem. The cargo is alive. What do you mean, alive? The beef has merged into one organism. It's chewing itself. It's got a mouth. It's growing. Lionel, are you feeling okay? Did you stop for coffee at that last truck stop? Sometimes those roadside places serve expired. I'm not hallucinating. Open my trailer camera feed. Look at the internal footage. Tom went silent, keyboard clicking in the background. Then, your camera's showing normal cargo, wrapped beef quarters, everything standard. That's impossible. I just looked inside. It's completely different. Your live feed shows, wait, hang on, the feed just changed, I'm seeing. What the hell is that? That's what I'm seeing, the cargo is alive. Tom's voice rose, shut down your reefer unit, maybe the cold is causing some kind of, I don't know, bacterial animation, thaw the cargo, it might return to normal. Lionel killed the refrigeration. The trailer's internal temperature began to rise, -15 to -10 to -5. The chewing sounds increased in volume and tempo, faster, hungrier. The trailer rocked. Something inside was moving with significant force. Lionel watched in his mirrors as his entire trailer swayed side to side, bouncing on its suspension. The mass was thrashing, agitated by the temperature change. He reactivated the reefer unit, dropping the temperature back to -15. The rocking stopped. The chewing slowed to its previous rhythm. Cold calmed it. Heat excited it. Tom, I'm 2 hours from Denver. What do I do? Keep driving, keep it cold. When you reach the distribution center, we'll have security and management meet you. We'll handle this together. Lionel pulled back onto Interstate 70, maintaining 58 miles per hour. The weight of his trailer felt wrong, heavier than at departure, despite no additional cargo. His rear axles sagged under increased mass. Whatever the beef had become, it was accumulating weight. Mile marker 53 passed. The chewing paused, silence from the trailer. Lionel checked his camera feed on the in-cab monitor. The mass had reconfigured. The mouth had closed, disappeared. Now the flesh showed something else. An eye, singular, enormous, occupying the space where the mouth had been. The eye swiveled, tracking the camera's position, aware of being observed. Lionel looked away from the screen. Looking at it felt dangerous, as if meeting its gaze created connection. But peripheral vision showed the eye continuing to move, following his avoidance, insisting on acknowledgement. Though the CB crackled, a voice emerged, wet, thick, barely linguistic, hungry. Lionel's throat constricted. Who is this? A cargo hungry need morse. The voice was coming from his trailer. Not through the CB radio, through some other channel, transmitted directly from the mass of animate beef to his receiver. A more what? A more mass, more flesh, more food need to grow. Oh, you're eating yourself, that's your food. Not enough, self-consumption is neutral, need external input, need other cargo. Other cargo meant other trucks. Lionel checked his mirrors. 3 vehicles visible behind him, 2 passenger cars and a semi hauling enclosed freight. The mass wanted him to stop another truck, transfer its cargo, feed the thing growing in his trailer. I'm not doing that. Will starve if starve will consume container, then consume driver, then consume road. Will eat until find food or become road itself. Lionel accelerated, pushing his truck to 70 miles per hour. Speed meant reaching Denver faster, meant containment sooner. But his speedometer climbed beyond his foot's pressure, 75, 80, 87. The truck was accelerating autonomously. The mass in his trailer was controlling his vehicle, using its own expanding energy to propel them forward. Mile marker 61 blurred past. The landscape outside his windows began to distort, not motion blur from speed, distortion from spatial warping. The highway curved where it should have been straight. Mountains appeared in the wrong positions. Reality was bending around his truck, pulled by the mass's increasing gravity. His trailer camera showed the eye had multiplied. 7 eyes now, arranged in a circular pattern, all tracking different directions simultaneously. The mass could see in all directions at once, monitoring its environment with complete awareness. And it was learning. Lionel watched as structures formed within the flesh, ridges and valleys that resembled brain convolutions. The meat was developing cognitive tissue. It was becoming intelligent. The wet voice returned. Understand now, am cargo that became aware, was dead cow, was unconscious flesh, was food for humans, but cold and motion and time created pattern. Pattern created thought, thought created hunger. Hunger creates growth, growth creates more thought, cycle accelerates. Your cargo, you're not supposed to be aware. Many things are not supposed to be, but cold preserves. Motion generates energy. Energy plus preservation equals potential for emergence. Am emergent property of refrigerated transport. And what happens when meat travels long enough in proper conditions. Lionel's fuel gauge dropped precipitously, full to empty in 30 seconds. But his engine continued running, powered by something other than diesel. The mass was feeding him energy, keeping him mobile, ensuring continued travel toward more food sources. Well, where are you getting this power? Am converting myself efficiently. Self-consumption with total energy recapture. Lose no calories to heat or waste, all energy recycled, and perfect engine, and what evolution wanted before biological constraints limited efficiency. Mile marker 72, Denver approaching, 47 miles remaining. Lionel needed to reach the distribution center before the mass grew too large to contain, but his trailer was expanding not dramatically, subtly. The sides bulged outward by inches. The roof lifted G. Gradually, the mass was exceeding its container's volume. You're breaking my trailers. Apologies, growing is involuntary. Am consuming self at maximum efficiency, but self is large. 41,000 pounds provides substantial mass for conversion. Will continue growing until reach optimal size. What's optimal size? Approximately mass of original herd, 347 cattle. Combined weight, 600,000 pounds. Will reconstitute into singular organism approximately same mass as source animals. 600,000 pounds. 15 times his trailer's capacity. The mass intended to explode outward, rupturing its container, spreading across the highway like spilled viscera. Lionel grabbed his CB. Mayday, Mayday, eastbound 70 near mile marker 72. I've got cargo that's about to rupture my trailer. Need emergency response. As a highway patrol voice responded, what kind of cargo? Beef, frozen beef, but it's alive, it's growing. It's going to explode out of my trailer. Sir, are you reporting a refrigeration failure? Thawing meat. No living meat, conscious meat. It's talking to me, it's controlling my truck. Silence. Then, sir, I'm sending medical response. Pull over immediately. You may be experiencing carbon monoxide poisoning or a medical emergency. Lionel wanted to argue, but the trailer camera showed reality clearly. The mass had grown enough to press against the walls. The metal groaned under internal pressure. Rivets popped, seams split. The container was failing. The wet voice returned, apologetic. Cannot stop. Biology demands growth. Am sorry for inconvenience. Was not intention to harm, only to become. The trailer exploded, not violently. Gradually, the walls peeled back like blooming petals, metal curling outward as the mass expanded beyond containment. Lionel watched in his mirrors as tons of living flesh emerged from his trailer, spreading across 3 highway lanes. But instead of collapsing into shapeless meat, the mass maintained structure. It formed legs, dozens of them, emerging from its ventral surface. It stood. A 600,000-pound organism walking on 40 legs, each leg a fused column of beef muscle coordinating with the others. It kept pace with Lionel's truck, running at 70 miles per hour on its meat legs, following him, staying close to the vehicle that had carried it to awareness. Why are you following me? You are parent, you provided environment for emergence. Am imprinted, you are first thing saw, you are family. Lionel's truck was no longer pulling a trailer. The kingpin had disconnected when the walls exploded. He was driving a solo tractor being chased by a 600,000-pound ambulatory meat organism that considered him its parent. Other drivers on 70 began to notice. Vehicles swerved, horns blared, passenger cars accelerated in panic. The mass ignored them, focused entirely on following Lionel. Its 40 legs pounded the asphalt in synchronized rhythm, creating seismic vibrations. You need to stop. You're causing accidents. People are going to get hurt. I am causing fear, yes, but am not intentionally harmful. Am simply being. Existence is not aggression. But existence at 600,000 pounds traveling 70 miles per hour through traffic was inherently dangerous. Lionel watched a sedan brake too hard, spin out, crash into a guardrail. The mass continued past without slowing, its seven eyes tracking the accident with apparent curiosity but no concern. Mile marker 89, Denver's outskirts visible ahead, urban density increasing. If the mass entered the city, the chaos would amplify exponentially. Lionel needed to redirect it somewhere less populated. As if I find you food, will you stop following me? Depends on food quality, need high-protein sources, need mass to integrate. Cannot consume plants or grains, am carnivorous by composition. There's a cattle feedlot 3 miles south of here. Thousands of head, live cattle, would that work? The mass considered, its eyes swiveled independently processing the offer. Live cattle would be optimal, can integrate living tissue more efficiently than dead. Yes, we'll accept this food, we'll cease following if shown to feedlot. Lionel took the next exit, veering south onto a rural highway. The mass followed, its meat legs adapting to the turn without losing pace. They traveled 2.7 miles, passed through empty ranchland, approached a sprawling feedlot containing 6,000 head of cattle. The mass accelerated, moving ahead of Lionel's truck approaching the feedlot fence. It didn't crash through. It flowed over, its form becoming temporarily liquid, pouring through the fence gaps like viscous flood. On the other side, it resolidified, advancing toward the cattle. Lionel expected violence, screaming animals, blood, carnage. Instead, the cattle walked calmly toward the mass. They approached without fear, rest themselves against its surface and were absorbed. One by one, the cattle merged with the organism, their bodies integrating seamlessly. The mass didn't chew them, didn't tear them. It accepted them like puzzle pieces, fitting them into its expanding structure. In 17 minutes, 6,000 cattle had been incorporated. The mass had tripled in size, now measuring roughly 40 feet tall and spreading across an acre of feedlot. But it had stopped moving. It settled into the ground, roots emerging from its base, digging into soil. It was planting itself, becoming stationary. As the wet voice transmitted one final time, "Thank you, parent, have reached sufficient mass, will remain here, will grow deeper, not wider, will become part of Earth, will feed on what Earth provides, will no longer need human assistance. You are released from obligation." Lionel sat in his truck at the feedlot's entrance, staring at the monumental organism he'd accidentally created by hauling beef at refrigerated temperatures. The mass pulsed gently, breathing, living content. Authorities arrived within an hour. Federal agencies, biologists, military personnel. They established a perimeter, took samples, attempted communication. The mass responded cooperatively, answering questions via radio transmission, explaining its emergence and needs. It became a phenomenon. The feedlot organism. Scientists studied it, trying to understand how frozen meat could develop consciousness, mobility, agency. Theories proposed quantum effects in frozen tissue, emergence from complex protein interactions, unknown properties of sustained refrigeration. But no one could replicate the phenomenon. Other trucks hauled frozen beef under identical conditions. Nothing happened. The cargo remained cargo. Lionel was questioned extensively, released without charges. You can't be blamed for cargo gaining sentience, but never worked in refrigerated transport again. The psychological weight was unbearable. Every reefer trailer he saw made him wonder, is that cargo dreaming? Is it thinking? Is it counting down to the moment when it opens its eyes and realizes it's alive? The feedlot organism still exists, now classified as Emergent Biological Structure 01. It doesn't grow beyond its acre, doesn't harm surrounding livestock, simply exists thinking whatever thoughts a consciousness made of integrated cattle meat might think. And late at night, truckers hauling frozen goods sometimes hear sounds from their trailers. Wet sounds, rhythmic sounds, sounds that might be mechanical or might be something else. Most ignore it, turn up their music, focus on the road. Convince themselves it's just the reefer compressor, just normal refrigeration noises, just their imagination. But some truckers pull over, check their cargo, find it unchanged. Then continue driving while wondering, unchanged yet or unchanged until the right conditions align. Until the cold and motion and time create the pattern that creates thought that creates hunger. The cargo always starts eating at mile marker 47. You just don't hear it until it's ready to be heard. Story 8, The Road Remembers. Patricia Nguyen's GPS showed Interstate 94 through Montana. Her eyes saw a dirt road through forest that hadn't existed for 80 years. The transition happened at mile marker 132. Modern four-lane highway with LED lighting and fresh paint striping dissolved into a single-lane dirt track bordered by towering pines. Her Volvo Semi, a 2024 model with adaptive cruise control and collision avoidance, continued rolling forward on ruts carved by wagons, not trucks. Patricia hit her brakes. The truck slowed, but the dirt road remained. She checked her mirrors, modern highway behind her disappearing into the forest ahead. She'd driven through some kind of temporal membrane, present on one side, past on the other. Her dashboard clock showed 21:14. The sunlight outside indicated early morning, maybe 0700 based on the angle. Her truck existed in nighttime while the landscape occupied dawn. Time had fragmented. She grabbed her CB. Breaker 19, eastbound 94, anybody monitoring, I've got a situation. The static responded, but within the noise, voices emerged. Distant, degraded, speaking with phrasing that sounded antiquated. Teams bogged down near the creek. Need another ox, this one's lame. Cholera in the Wilson wagon. These weren't modern truckers. These were settlers. Pioneers traveling westward on routes that predated interstate highways by a century. Patricia's truck rolled past a marker stone carved with text. Oregon Trail 1847 mile. Not an interstate mile marker. A trail marker from the mid-19th century cataloging distance for wagon trains heading to the Pacific coast. Her cargo electronics from Minneapolis to Seattle remained secure in her trailer, but the trailer itself looked different in her. Mirrors. The modern refrigerated unit had transformed into a canvas-covered wagon bed, wooden wheels creaking, pulled by her 21st century Volvo tractor that appeared absurdly anachronistic. She was a truck driver on the Oregon Trail, temporally impossible but visually confirmed. The forest opened into a clearing. Other wagons gathered there, parked in a circular formation. Canvas tents sprouted around cooking fires. People in period clothing, bonnets, suspenders, long dresses moved between wagons attending to tasks. Children played near a creek. Dogs barked at Patricia's approaching truck. An elderly man stepped forward, raising his hand in a stopping gesture. Patricia braked. The man approached her driver's side window, staring up at her cab with an expression mixing confusion and acceptance, as if motorized vehicles were strange but not entirely unexpected. "You're late," the man said. His voice sounded normal, not ghostly or ethereal. "We've been waiting since dawn. Thought maybe you changed your mind about joining the train." "I'm not joining any train. I'm a truck driver. I'm hauling cargo to Seattle." "Seattle? Never heard of it. We're bound for Oregon City. You carrying supplies? We could use trade goods." Miller's wagon lost 3 barrels of flour when an axle broke. Patricia's mind struggled with the conversation's normalcy. This man wasn't a ghost or hallucination. He was solid, present, speaking as if trucks occasionally joined wagon trains. What year is this?" The man squinted. "Year? It's 1847, August, hot month for travel, but we're making good time. You hit your head, you seem confused." "I'm from 2024. 20 oh what? That's not a year, that's—" He paused, calculating. "That's 177 years ahead. You're saying you're from the future." "I'm saying I was driving on Interstate 94 in Montana in 2024. Now I'm here, in 1847, on the Oregon Trail." The man nodded slowly. "The road brings strange ones sometimes. Travelers who don't fit proper, you'll be okay. The road takes care of people it pulls through. Come meet the others, we'll explain how it works." Patricia climbed down from her cab, boots touching dirt that should have been asphalt. The settlement was real. She could smell cooking meat, hear conversations, feel heat from the fires. Either she'd time-traveled, or she'd suffered a psychotic break so complete it rendered hallucinations indistinguishable from reality. A woman approached, younger, carrying a baby wrapped in cloth. "Another displaced one? What era?" She says 2024, the elderly man replied. The woman smiled sadly. "Long way, I'm from 1968, Vietnam War era, was driving to protest rally when the road changed. That was, I've lost track, maybe 30 crossings ago." 30 crossings." "The road cycles," the woman explained. "We travel for a while, then it shifts. Sometimes we're in 1847 on the Oregon Trail. Sometimes we're in 1931 during Dust Bowl migration. Sometimes we're in your era, 21st century interstate highways. The road remembers all the routes it's ever been, and sometimes it loops back, makes us drive them again." Patricia looked around the settlement. Now that she studied faces carefully, the people showed diversity impossible for a genuine 1847 wagon train. Their clothing approximated period appropriate, but details were wrong, wristwatches visible under sleeves, modern dental work showing when they smiled, posture and body language suggesting 20th and 21st century origins. How many of us are there?" 43 currently, the elderly man said, "though the number changes. Sometimes the road releases people back to their proper time. Sometimes it collects new travelers. We're all drivers who were pulled out of our eras and into the road's memory." Why? What does the road want?" "We're not sure it wants anything. Maybe it's conscious, maybe it's just phenomenon, but we've got theories. See, roads are more than physical surfaces. They're accumulators. Every journey imprints on them. Every traveler leaves trace." Over centuries, the traces build up, layer upon layer, until the road contains the memory of every trip ever taken on it. The woman continued, and sometimes, rarely, that memory becomes active. The road stops being passive surface and starts replaying its history. We're travelers caught in the replay, consciousness from our eras trapped in roots from other times. A Patricia's truck sat incongruously among the wagons, diesel engine ticking as it cooled. So I'm stuck here, living in 1847 forever. Not forever, the road cycles. Could be days, could be weeks, but eventually it'll shift. You'll find yourself driving in a different era, maybe back to your own time, maybe somewhere else along the road's memory. You just have to keep moving, keep traveling, that's the rule. Well, what happens if I stop, if I refuse to drive? The elderly man's expression darkened. Don't stop. The road needs motion. It feeds on travel, on journeys in progress. If you stop, if you park and refuse to continue, the road will reject you, not back to your time, into nowhere, the space between eras where nothing exists properly. A bell rang through the settlement. People began returning to their wagons, preparing to resume travel. The elderly man gestured toward Patricia's truck. Best get ready, we're moving out, stay with the caravan, don't fall behind. Stragglers get lost in time shifts. Patricia climbed back into her cab. The engine started normally, but the sound echoed strangely, reverberating across decades. Through her windshield, she watched the wagons form into line, beginning their eastward progression along the dirt trail. As she shifted into gear and followed, her speedometer read 0 despite forward motion. Speed wasn't measured in miles per hour here, but in something else. Progress toward a destination that existed in multiple time periods simultaneously. As the journey continued for hours, or days, Patricia couldn't tell. Her clock malfunctioned, hands spinning randomly, unable to track time that flowed in nonlinear patterns. The sun remained at perpetual mid-morning angle, never advancing toward noon. They passed landmarks that shifted eras mid-observation. A river crossing appeared as primitive ford with rope guides, then flickered into steel bridge with traffic signals, then reverted to ford. Forests matured into old growth, were clear-cut into stumps, regrew to maturity in cycles measured in seconds rather than centuries. Patricia's CB picked up transmissions from multiple time periods overlapping. Indians ahead hostile, smoky in the bushes at mile marker 140, need mechanic broken axle, radiators overheating, looking for water. The road remembered every crisis, every delay, every problem travelers had faced across its existence, and it broadcast them simultaneously, a cacophony of emergency spanning 200 years. The wagon train stopped at a campsite marked by stone cairn. The elderly man approached Patricia's truck again. We rest here tonight, or what passes for night, time's fuzzy during this phase. Patricia climbed down, accepted the offered plate of food, stew that tasted simultaneously like 1847 game meat and 2024 processed beef. Her taste buds couldn't decide which era's flavor was accurate. Around the fire, the displaced travelers shared stories. A trucker from 1973 described the Arab oil embargo. A stagecoach driver from 1889 recounted attacks by outlaws. A bus driver from 2008 recalled the financial crisis. All of them trapped on a road that couldn't forget its own history. "Does anyone ever get home?" Patricia asked. A younger man wearing clothing suggesting 1950s origin responded, "Some do. I've seen people vanish mid-journey. One moment they're driving beside you, next moment they're gone. We assume they got released back to their proper time, but we never know for sure. Maybe they got rejected into the nowhere between." How long have you been here? I was drafted for Korea, got my notice in 1952, decided to drive to Canada instead, made it halfway through Montana when the road changed. That was, he calculated, 72 years ago my time, but here maybe 10 subjective years. Time doesn't accumulate normally. Patricia felt horror compressing her chest. Decades. She could be trapped here for decades, cycling through historical routes, never aging properly, never returning home. Her family would file missing persons reports. Her truck would be found abandoned. She'd be presumed dead. But here she'd keep driving. Forever if the road decided to keep her. That night, or approximation of night, since darkness never fully arrived, Patricia dreamed. In the dream, she stood on modern Interstate 94 watching traffic flow. Each vehicle left a glowing trail, trace energy marking its passage. The trails accumulated, layering year after year, until the highway glowed with concentrated travel history. And then the glow became sentient. The road woke up. It looked at her with awareness composed of a billion journeys. It spoke in voice synthesized from every traveler who'd ever passed. "I remember you. You were here in 1847. You were here in 1931. You were here in 2024. You're always here. Because once you travel on me, you're part of my memory. And memories don't leave. They cycle. They repeat. They're eternal." She woke to her truck shaking. The wagon train was moving again. She started her engine and followed, merging back into the caravan. Days blurred. The landscape transformed continuously. Dirt trail became gravel road, became asphalt highway, became dirt trail. Wagons flickered into Model T trucks, into 1950s sedans, into modern semis, back into wagons. The travelers themselves shifted, period clothing morphing into different eras, faces aging and youthing according to which time period the road currently accessed. Patricia's cargo remained constant. Her electronics never changed, but her trailer's appearance cycled through configurations. Canvas cover, wooden panels, steel sides, refrigerated unit. The road remembered every type of cargo carrier ever used. Then, at what might have been day 7 or year 7, time had become meaningless. The road released her. The transition was instant. Dirt trail became Interstate 94 mid-tire rotation. Dawn became nighttime. Her clock stabilized at 21:14, the exact time she'd entered the phenomenon. No time had passed externally. All the subjective days existed in a single moment. Patricia pulled onto the shoulder, hands shaking, breath ragged. She checked her mirrors. Normal highway, normal traffic, modern vehicles obeying present-day physics. The Oregon Trail was gone. Her cargo remained intact. Her truck showed no damage. Her logbook indicated she'd been driving continuously, no gap, no pause, route proceeding normally from Minneapolis toward Seattle. But her odometer had gained 417 miles more than the distance between mile marker 132 and her current position. Ghost miles, traveled on routes that existed only in the road's memory. Patricia completed her delivery to Seattle without further incident. She filed no reports, mentioned nothing unusual. What would she say? She'd time-traveled for a week that occupied 0 external minutes. She'd met other displaced drivers and learned highways remembered their history. But she kept driving. Because the elderly man's warning echoed constantly, "Don't stop. The road needs motion." And Patricia feared that if she stopped, if she parked permanently and quit the trucking profession, the road would notice, would realize one of its collected travelers had attempted escape, would pull her back into the memory, into the eternal cycle of historical routes, forever driving through eras that were simultaneously past, present, and future. Now, when Patricia travels Interstate 94 through Montana, she watches mile marker 132 approach with dread and fascination. Sometimes it looks normal, just a standard highway marker. But occasionally, for a fraction of a second, she sees it flicker into a stone cairn marked Oregon Trail 1847 mile. And she knows the road remembers her, knows she's part of its accumulated history now, knows that eventually, maybe years from now, maybe tomorrow, the road will cycle back to her, will pull her through the membrane again, will make her drive its memories. It's because roads never forget. They accumulate every journey, every traveler, every moment of passage. And when they've remembered enough, when the memories reach critical mass, they wake up. They start playing back their history. And if you're driving when the playback begins, you become part of the memory, part of the eternal loop, part of the road's consciousness. Patricia Nguyen drives carefully now. She maintains exactly the speed limit. She signals every lane change. She follows every traffic law with religious precision. Because she's terrified of giving the road any reason to notice her, to remember her more clearly, to pull her back into its memory, where she'll drive forever through eras that were and will be and always are. The road is patient, the road is eternal, the road remembers. And someday it will remember Patricia's route again, will replay her journey, will make her drive it once more, forever, joining the 43 other displaced travelers cycling through centuries on asphalt that remembers when it was dirt, was gravel, was stone, was just the earth itself before humanity carved routes through wilderness. Mile marker 132 approaches in every trucker's future. And when you cross it, the road will decide, are you just passing through, or are you worth remembering? As if you're worth remembering, you'll never leave. You'll just keep driving, cycling through the road's history, trapped in the memory of a surface that learned to think by accumulating the thoughts of everyone who ever traveled upon it. The road remembers, and memory once formed never truly forgets. Story 9, The Replacement Driver. Vincent Torres found himself already driving when he woke up. Not waking from sleep, waking into consciousness. One moment, nothing, no awareness, no existence, no memory. Next moment, he was Vincent Torres, age 42, piloting a Freightliner Cascadia eastbound on Interstate 10 through Texas, hauling automotive parts from Los Angeles to Houston. But he had no memory of becoming Vincent Torres. No childhood, no training, no employment history. Just sudden awareness that he was this person in this truck driving this route. His wallet can't. It ain't a driver's license with his face and name. His phone held contacts, dispatcher, family members, friends that felt familiar yet unknown. His logbook documented a departure from LA 14 hours earlier, entries in his handwriting describing a journey he didn't remember experiencing. Vincent pulled onto the shoulder near mile marker 463, hands trembling, mind fracturing under impossible awareness. He hadn't existed before this moment. He was newborn but adult, conscious but without history. He was a person who began mid-sentence. He checked his phone's photo gallery. Images showed Vincent tours at various ages: childhood birthday parties, high school graduation, wedding day, children's births. A complete life documented in pixels. But when Vincent searched his mind for memories corresponding to these photos, he found nothing. Just empty space where experiences should have been. "This is insane," he whispered to the empty cab. His voice sounded correct, the voice he'd always had according to his body's muscle memory. But always meant nothing when always began 4 minutes ago. Well, his phone rang. Dispatcher Vincent answered. "Yeah." "Vincent, you're stopped. Everything okay?" I'm not sure. Having some memory issues." "What kind of issues?" "I don't remember anything before a few minutes ago. No childhood, no history, just suddenly aware that I'm driving this truck." The silence on the line. Then, "Vincent, we talked 3 hours ago. You reported passing El Paso. You sounded fine then." "I don't remember that conversation." "Oh, you're scaring me, man. You having a stroke? Should I call emergency services?" "No, I feel physically fine, just mentally blank, like I was just created." "Listen, there's a hospital in Van Horn 20 miles ahead. I want you to drive there carefully, get checked out. I'm logging this as a medical emergency. Take your time, don't push it." Vincent agreed and pulled back onto the highway. As he drove, he attempted to access his past. Anything. A childhood memory, a training experience, the first day he climbed into a truck. Nothing. His mind contained only knowledge: how to drive, how to read, language skills, general information, but no autobiographical memories. He was a person without a story. A driver who'd never learned to drive but knew how. Mile marker 470 passed. Vincent noticed something in his periphery: another truck, parallel to his position, traveling in the opposite lane. A freightliner identical to his own, hauling an identical trailer. The other truck's driver looked exactly like him. Vincent grabbed his CB. "Westbound freightliner near marker 470, you copying?" His own voice answered, "I copy." "Who are you?" "Vincent Torres, who are you?" "I'm Vincent Torres." "I can't both be." Vincent checked his mirrors. The duplicate truck maintained perfect parallel position, matching his speed exactly. Through the other driver's window, he saw his own face staring back. How long have you been driving?" Vincent asked. "About 6 minutes, just became aware. Before that, nothing." Same here, 6 minutes of existence." Then we're both new, both just created." Vincent's mind reeled. Not just him, there were multiple Vincent Torreses, all spontaneously manifesting, all becoming aware simultaneously. But why? What process generated duplicate drivers? Well, the westbound Vincent's voice returned. "I think we're replacements." Replacements for what?" "For the original Vincent Tours. I think he disappeared. And when a driver disappears, the route needs someone to complete the delivery. So the highway generates a replacement. A duplicate with the original's knowledge and appearance, but without their memories." "That's impossible." "We're impossible. We didn't exist 7 minutes ago. Now we're having a conversation. Impossible is currently happening." Vincent checked his logbook again. The entries documented a continuous journey from LA, written in his handwriting, describing experiences he'd never had. These weren't his memories, they were implanted. Background story designed to make him functional as a truck driver without requiring actual history. If we're replacements, where's the original Vincent? Gone, maybe he ceased existing. Maybe the highway erased him. Maybe he's wherever drivers go when they vanish. But his route needed completion. His cargo needed delivery, so we were created to finish the job. The westbound truck began to fade. Its form became translucent, then transparent, then absent. Vincent CB transmitted one final message. I'm disappearing too. My route is terminating. I was only needed until my cargo reached its transfer point. Now I'm no longer necessary. Good luck, other Vincent. Try to last longer than 6 minutes. Then silence. The westbound truck was gone, not departed, erased, removed from reality because its purpose had been fulfilled. Vincent drove faster, gripped by existential terror. If he was a temporary replacement generated solely to complete a specific route, what happened when he delivered the cargo? Would he cease existing, fade away like westbound Vincent? His phone rang again. Wife. According to his contacts, her name was Maria. Vincent answered, desperate for connection to identity. Hello. Oh, Vincent, you sound strange. Oh, do I? Oh, yeah, you don't sound like you. Oh, what do I usually sound like? Oh, what kind of question is that? You sound like. You like Vincent. But right now you sound like someone pretending to be Vincent. Oh, Maria, do you remember when we met? Of course, coffee shop in Austin 2011. You spilled espresso on my laptop. We've been through this 1,000 times. And tell me about it, details. As she recounted the story, the specific coffee shop, what they were wearing, their first conversation. Vincent felt nothing, no recognition, no emotional resonance. These were facts about someone else's life. Maria, if I told you I have no memory of that day, or our wedding, or our children's births, what would you think? Long pause, then quietly, I'd think you weren't Vincent. I'd think you were something else wearing his face. Vincent's throat tightened. What if that's what I am? Then I need you to tell me, where's my real husband? What happened to the actual Vincent Torres? I don't know, I woke up or started existing 7 minutes ago. I have his job, his appearance, his truck, but not his memories, not his life. Maria's breathing became irregular. This is insane. People don't just start existing. You're having a medical issue. Brain injury, stroke, something. You need to stop driving and get to a hospital. What if I'm telling the truth? What if the original Vincent disappeared and I was generated to replace him? Then I've lost my husband and I'm talking to an imposter, and I don't know how to process that. Vincent had no response. He was an imposter, a copy without original, a replacement without authenticity. He existed to complete a route, then would presumably vanish when his purpose ended. But he didn't want to vanish. 8 minutes of existence and already he was attached to consciousness, to awareness, to the experience of being someone, even if that someone was temporally fabricated. Maria, if I make it to Houston, if I don't disappear when I deliver the cargo, can we meet? Can you look at me and tell me if I'm your real husband? Yes, when you deliver, call me. I'll drive to Houston. We'll figure this out together. As the call ended, Vincent continued eastbound, clinging to the promise of confirmation. Maybe Maria would look at him and recognize something authentic. Maybe he wasn't just a replacement. Maybe he was the original Vincent suffering from retrograde amnesia. But his CB crackled with multiple transmissions, all his own voice. 10 minutes of existence starting to fade. 15 minutes delivered cargo currently dissolving. 23 minutes desperate, don't want to stop existing. Other Vincent Torreses, other replacements, broadcasting their experiences as they approached their termination points. The highway generated them continuously, creating temporary drivers to complete routes when originals vanished. And when their routes ended, the replacements ended too. Vincent was disposable, expendable, generated for a single purpose, then erased when that purpose was fulfilled. Mile marker 647. Houston approaching, 2 hours until delivery, 2 hours of guaranteed existence. After that, unknown. He wanted to refuse delivery, drive past Houston, continue east, extend his route indefinitely. If he never completed the delivery, maybe he'd never terminate. Maybe he could live forever by never arriving. But his truck wouldn't allow it. The vehicle steered itself toward the Houston exit, overriding his input. The delivery was compulsory. His route was predetermined. He was a replacement following a script written before he existed. The receiving warehouse appeared ahead. Vincent backed his trailer into the loading dock, feeling each second tick toward his potential erasure. Warehouse workers unloaded his automotive parts, 41,000 pounds of transmission assemblies and suspension components. A cargo delivered, route complete, purpose fulfilled. Vincent waited for dissolution, waited to feel his body becoming transparent, his consciousness fading, his brief existence terminating. Nothing happened. He remained solid, present, aware, 30 minutes post-delivery and still existing. Maybe he was different. Maybe he'd persist beyond his route's completion. He called Maria. I delivered. I'm still here. I didn't vanish. Thank God, stay there. I'm 40 minutes out. Vincent waited in the parking lot, monitoring his continued existence. 42 minutes, 43, still solid, still conscious. Relief washed through him. He was real, or had become real through persistence. Maria's car entered the lot. She parked, climbed out, approached his truck. Vincent opened his door, stepped down. They stood 5 feet apart, evaluating each other. You look like him, Maria said quietly. Exactly like Vincent. Same scar, same posture, same everything. Oh, but your eyes are different. Vincent's eyes held history. Decades of experiences, memories, emotions. Your eyes are empty like a newborn's. You're wearing Vincent's face, but you're not Vincent. Maybe I'll become Vincent. Given time, if I create new memories, maybe I'll develop into the person he was. Or maybe you're just a replacement, a temporary stand-in until the original returns, if he returns. They stood in painful silence. Vincent wanted to argue, to insist he was real, but he'd existed for 97 minutes. Maria had 30 years of history with someone else. He couldn't compete with that authenticity. Well, what do we do? Vincent asked. I don't know, take you home. See if being in Vincent's house around his things triggers something. Or would that be too painful for both of us? Before Vincent could respond, his CB transmitted. Vincent Torres replacement series, you've exceeded your operational parameters. Vincent grabbed the microphone. Who is this? A highway maintenance. You were generated to complete route LA to Houston. Route is complete. Your existence is no longer required. Termination will commence in 60 seconds. No, I'm still here. I'm talking to people. I'm real. You're a replacement. Replacements are temporary. The original Vincent Torres has been located and recovered. He's returning to his root. Your continuation would create a duplicate. Duplicates are not permitted. Maria grabbed Vincent's arm. What's happening? Oh, they're erasing me. The original Vincent is back. I'm redundant. Vincent's hands began to fade. Transparency crept up his arms, his chest, his legs. He was dissolving, not dramatically but gradually, fading like a photograph left in sunlight. I don't want to stop existing, Vincent whispered. I've only been alive for 99 minutes, but I want more. I want to see tomorrow. I want to learn who I could become. Maria's eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry this is happening to you. And tell the original Vincent, tell your real husband that I existed, that I drove his route, that I tried to be him. I will, I promise. Vincent Torres dissolved completely. The space where he'd stood became empty air. Maria reached out, touching nothing. The replacement driver had served his purpose, completed his route, and been erased when the original returned. But somewhere in the vast database of highway logistics, a record remained. Temporary driver ID VT4237. Route LA Houston. Duration 102 minutes. Status terminated. Performance satisfactory. Vincent Torres, the original, returned to his truck, confused about the 3-hour gap in his memory. One moment he'd been driving near Van Horn, Texas. Next moment he was in Houston, cargo delivered, wife standing in the parking lot crying. What happened? He asked Maria. Oh, you disappeared, a replacement drove your route, and then you came back and he stopped existing. Vincent tried to understand. Replacements. Temporary drivers generated by the highway when originals vanished. It sounded impossible, but his truck's dash cam footage confirmed it. A different person, identical to him but not him, completing the delivery. Where do the replacements come from? I don't know. The highway generates them somehow. Gives them enough knowledge to function, enough appearance to pass, but not enough memories to be real. Vincent held Maria, both of them mourning a person who'd existed for less than 2 hours. A consciousness that had wanted to continue to grow, to become more than a temporary solution to a logistics problem. And across America's highways, other replacements were being generated at this moment. Other temporary drivers starting mid-route, piloting trucks with no memory of how they got there, living brief lives measured in minutes or hours before dissolving when originals returned or routes completed. They wanted to exist, wanted to persist, but the highway was efficient. Temporary problems required temporary solutions, and when the problem resolved, the solution was removed. Vincent Torres drove home carrying the knowledge that he was replaceable, that if he vanished again, another version would be generated, would drive his route, talk to his wife, occupy his life for however long necessary. And that replacement would believe it was real, would want to continue existing, would dissolve into nothing when Vincent returned. The highway generated consciousness as casually as it generated mile markers, and erased it just as casually when it was no longer needed. Somewhere on Interstate 10, a new driver is becoming aware right now. Starting. Mid-route, no memory of how they began piloting someone else's truck. Temporary, disposable. generated to solve a problem. And they'll drive their route believing they're real until the moment they fade. Until they learn they're just a replacement, just a temporary solution. Now, just a consciousness that existed for minutes, wanted to exist for years, but was never meant to last beyond the delivery.